Howdy ho ho, my good humans. How the hell are you doing? This is Unnecessary Rambling. I am Brandon Sylvia. I appreciate y'all for tuning in, for stopping by to talk the most packed month I think I've ever had with the video games, and it's not even over. Talking some October. And as you'll see, I left a few games off the list. I think Loon did as well for like Alan Wake and some stuff that we'll be getting to a little bit later on. We're having to record this early, not early October, but I want to get these out each month on the 31st. So we're recording it a little bit earlier. That way that we can meet that deadline. So there's a few games not on the list like Alan Wake 2. I'll be discussing that next month for sure. And I'm assuming you probably will be diving into it next month as well, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yep, that and Veilguard will probably be dominating my month.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are going to be the two big games because I know Alan Wake now it's like repackaged with all the DLC packed into the main game. So you kind of got to play it all at once, if I'm not mistaken, which I
Oh, is it?
don't. Yeah, for the physical release. I think so. I could be mistaken on that, but I feel like I heard that somewhere.
That worries me even more then, because the True Achievements article that just dropped says that that latest DLC is buggy.
Oh no.
So
Yeah.
hopefully, hopefully that was blown out of proportion.
Yeah. Well, guys, we'll go ahead and get this thing started because as you see, this list is stacked. I've been diving into a bunch of stuff. Loon's been diving into a bunch of stuff. And so what we did, we changed up the tier because there's this has been a month of dabbling for me. Not a whole lot of finishing. I finished maybe, I don't even know, five, six games, something like that. So we have a haven't finished S through A tier, haven't finished B through C tier, and haven't finished D through F tier. So S through A is like I'm definitely going to come back to that. I'm definitely going to try to finish that. B through C is like, you got some downtime. I'll probably hop back in. D through F is like, yeah, I'm good. I'm not jumping back into it. And it doesn't necessarily have to be that restrictive. So like if there's something you don't think you're going to go back to, but you still think it's a pretty high quality game, like you can put it wherever you want to and explain your reasoning. It doesn't have to be any sort of strict barriers to entry in these haven't finished tiers. But Loon, let's see, man. You want me to kick it off, or you want to kick it off first? How you feeling?
I think you have slightly more titles, so we'll kick it off with you
All right.
to even
Uh,
out.
well, I talked about Silent Hill 2 remake on my PS5 pickups video. I would throw that game comfortably in the A tier. Not quite S, but good Lord, what a video game that is. I have talked about it many times. I'm not like a Silent Hill maniac. I'm not I don't absolutely adore the genre or the franchise. And really, honestly, I don't even adore the genre so much. Like I'm not as much of a psychological horror guy as I am a survival horror action driven style of player. So the fact that they kind of took a cue out of Resident Evil's book, made it a little bit more action packed, really, really fucking difficult. I didn't see my screen's lagging a little bit here. So I guess I'll let that catch up for a second. One, two.
This is racing the delivery for Alan Wake.
Okay. I think we're in there now. But yeah, so I'm not like a super big Silent Hill 2 fan. Um but this worked for me on all fronts. Really, really punishing difficulty, much harder than the Resident Evil games in my opinion. But maybe there's something there too where I'm just used to the Resident Evil games at this point. And it felt a little bit more unfair in Silent Hill 2 the remake, but I kind of appreciate that, just the bombardment of enemies, especially the prison section. And you played Silent Hill 2 the original, so we'll kind of be able to bounce back and forth here a little bit. And I guess we can kind of rank those together if you want. Um, but man, that prison section in the remake is brutal, pitch black, have no idea where to go. Well, you kind of have an idea where to go, but there's certain it all feels so familiar. Every every small little nook and cranny looks just like the last. in that section, and you're looping around, getting lost, enemies jumping out from behind you, popping out from corners, and it's the one section of the game I would say is actually like legitimately terrifying. It plays into making you feel like you're hallucinating, like, oh my God, I've been here, I've seen this. Um, and sure, once you get the hang of the shooting, you shoot them in the knee, you crack them over the head with your pipe, and you start getting into that flow that makes the game a lot less punishing when you really understand the mechanics. But for a little while there, you're going through it and you're like, damn, this is pretty freaking brutal. Those enemies, it takes a lot to take them down when you first get started in the game. But yeah, man, I really, really enjoyed Silent Hill 2, the remake. So with your playing of the original and me playing the remake, I'm kind of curious. Well, we'll sort of bounce back and forth a little bit here. Um, where would you rank the original?
So for me, or I'll clear up. We did that horror draft video, and you had touched on like Silent Hills and stuff, and it did make me feel guilty because my list was very very lacking in the department of a lot of horror things. It's not really a genre that I dip too much into. I don't know. I think I remember saying it in the video. Maybe I didn't. I'd say my like horror experience began with like the Evil Within 2. Like that's when it clicked with me, and I was like, man, this is a genre I can actually get into and stuff like that. So tank-based stuff really was off-putting. But you guys spoke so highly of it, of the series. I was just like, you know what, it's time to just, man up. Let's just brute force our way through it because, you sit there and you play Eurojank all the time. Just 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 eat the tank controls. But for me, I think I'm the complete opposite to you because you're saying that psychological horror isn't like your thing. That's so damn like the opposite of where I am. Like for me, I don't even need to play because I've seen like the original Resident Evils being played by other people. For me, they don't hold a candle to this game. Like it is for me, I would put like the OG Resident Evils in like A and B, and Silent Hill 2 would be an S for me
Nice.
because that's something that I really, really appreciate is when something it feels every piece of that game feels very meticulous and designed in a very specific way. And I love when themes are really, really strong. It's why I fell in love with like Persona 3 as like the best Persona game because its theming is so damn strong with its main story, and that's what it is here. And then on top of that, as you're well aware, music is so important to me. And just booting up that menu and just being greeted with that banger of a song. And then when you meet Angela for the first time and that score comes in and she's sitting there with the knife and it's just like, man, this is powerful shit. So
Yeah.
has to be S for me.
Yeah, man, and like you said, the themes are so fucking everything about the game is just brutal. It's brutal across the board on every level, from its themes to its direct story to its indirect story to its, you're talking about the enemy, and I'm kind of jumping back to Silent Hill 2, the remake here, but like enemies can open doors
Oh
in the
damn.
remake. Yeah, so they can come at you as you got into this room, you shut the door, you're in there thinking you're safe. They just open the door. If you're like looking at your map, they can just bash you when you're looking at your map. There's really no time to there's no time to catch your breath. There's really not a moment where you get to have that sort of okay, I'm safe for a second, which you can get in like the Resident Evil games. It's not really present in Silent
That's
Hill
a
2, the
massive
remake.
that's a massive strength though, because that's the whole theme, isn't it? The town is against you. Every part of it is battling you every single way, so it doesn't make sense that there would be any safe area like it would be in like a Resident Evil game. Because like you said, a lot of it is psychological. A lot of it is playing on your mind and stuff like that. So that's really good design because that is
Totally.
different from the original. You the amount of times I'm running through hallways and I'm like, all right, I really don't want to fight like four enemies. I'm just gonna dart into this room and like reset where they were to give you a better head start when you leave that room and you can kind of pick it up,
Yeah, and
you know?
that's the thing too, where you have to render in these full 3D spaces in the remake, and like there's no because they have like the camera cutoffs with the original, where okay, now I'm at the end of the hallway, it cuts to a new, pretty
Mm,
much it loads in an entirely new environment, and those enemies from the previous camera that you cut away from, they're not going to chase you into the new frame, and so like the in the remake having just a full space. Sure, I'm running away from these enemies, but they're chasing me everywhere. Like they just don't stop. You know what I mean? And it is a brutal game. And like I said, it's much more action oriented, but and just staying on that theme of the new features that were added in that I think really the James writing shit down on his map, like when you find a key feature in Silent Hill 2 the remake, he'll write it down on his map. So it's so immersive because that's what you would do if you were in some fucked up situation and you had a map. You wouldn't just use the map and not make additions to it.
I
Like that.
think that was in mine as well for the
Oh,
HD
was it?
collection. I don't, I know for a fact it marks the doors that you've gone through and it crosses out ones that you can't go through.
Okay.
But I think he does write down little bits of information as well.
Okay. Yeah. It's been a little bit since I played through Silent Hill 2, the original. So
But
yeah,
that's
I
what I mean. It is. I don't know if that was in the actual proper original. That's what I should have also
right.
clarified. This is the one I played was a lot of people look down upon it. There's the HD collection for 360,
Right.
which when you look at it side by side, yeah, there were a lot of changes and stuff, like lighting and stuff. It's a lot brighter
Oh yeah.
from what I've
You
seen.
I
So
in the version you played, could you press triangle to heal or Y to heal, or did you have to go to the menu to do it?
if you could do that, I never knew that you could do that, and that would have been would have been nice to know.
Could you
'Cause,
swap weapons with the D-pad?
I don't believe that's what I mean. I didn't
Okay.
really test anything. I was just
Okay.
going off of I just thought that was the only way. It doesn't really give you tutorials, really. It's kind of
Yeah.
just like, yeah, figure it out, dummy. It's just like, okay.
Yeah, I think that when you're in the menu in Silent Hill 2, the original, the enemies can't get you, right? So like if you're healing
Hmm.
in this one, if I'm not mistaken, I think they can. Because I know if you're like picking up an item and it's, going in your inventory, they can still attack you and shit. And so it's non-stop, man. It is non-fucking stop in the remake. And I don't I when you're describing the map thing, I kind of can see that in my head in the original, like the X on the map and shit. But I don't remember in the original, did James would he pull out his map and actually like was there an animation where he would write on
No.
it? Okay,
No.
that's a cool new thing in the
No.
remake that's so immersive. Where like, oh shit, I just busted in this car window and this isn't a real thing, but like say there's something of something valuable in this car window that you need a key for, he would write that down, a car right here next to the tower, and then it'll be right there in the map. It's really cool.
Do you know what? No, but yeah. So he didn't do the doors. What it was I was writing it
Hmm.
myself. I think I still have it. No, that's lies of P. But I did. I wrote on little like post-it notes, and it was the drainage thing. You can't reach it. It's so I wrote third floor, for instance,
Hmm.
numbered the room, drainage, needs something to get it out,
Okay.
and that's what I'm thinking of. I did it. It was me.
Ah.
But no, I found that so endearing though. That's so. There's been so few games where it will interact with a player on that level. Like you get your handheld so much in like modern gaming. It was so refreshing to be like, okay, there's a puzzle. I can kind of guess what I'm gonna need, but it's important for me to remember as the player where this is. And it felt immersive for me to actually get out a piece of paper because if I was in that scenario, and you have like, for instance, in the modern day, you'd have your phone, you would
Right.
write down something like that, and it was yeah, I love that. I love that portion of the game.
Yeah. It's man, I just hate to keep on going on and on praising it. I don't have a lot of negative things to say. It's I guess the biggest negative to me would be it's not a technical world beater at all. Like it's not a great looking game. I wouldn't say like the character models aren't great, the world environments aren't great. There are moments where the lighting is so good, the reflections are so good at night. There's one in particular, like 10-15 minute section of the game at night that is just up there with anything. It looks like Alan Wake 2 from some of the shit I've seen with Alan Wake 2, which was from some of the shit I've seen with Alan Wake 2. It looks like one of the most technically impressive games on the market. And this kind of mimicked what I saw of that nighttime shot in Alan Wake 2. Um, but yeah,
Hmm.
a lot of the daytime shit, it's not overly impressive. I don't think the performances from like a voice acting standpoint or anything are top tier. There's still a little bit of that cheese, but a little bit of that cheese is kind of uncomfortable too, where it's like, what the fuck is going on? Why are these characters acting the way they are? Why is this character just laying down in the middle of a desolate, fucked up ass a building where we're being chased by monsters? Why in the hell would you want to lay down? And it's off-putting in so many different ways, and somebody could look at it from the standpoint of being, you know, that makes no sense. Like, why would anybody do that? But at the end of the day, nothing in this game makes sense. And even towards when you get to the conclusion of what actually happened, like it intentionally does not make sense, and you start to see why nothing really adds up.
Yeah, I think it's because my understanding is each person sees it as their own prison, right? Like nobody sees it as the same thing because in the original, when you finally catch up to the little girl, you're like, why you haven't even got a scratch on you? And
Right.
because she's not seeing this as like a hellscape that everybody else is. What she's trapped in is she's lost her friend and she's sad and everything, but it's still hopeful. She's not, you know, eating herself because it's not anything she's done.
Right.
She's angry at James and is projecting that. So she's not encountering these monsters and stuff because the town isn't attacking that part of her. So
Totally. Yeah, that I never even thought about it that way, but that makes perfect sense. Because every character has like some sort of different like you said, personal
trauma.
prison.
Yeah.
Yep. And you get to the Angela stuff and it's just like tear-inducing without a doubt. It's so fucking sad. So fucking sad. And once again, you know, you can get to that moment with that boss fight and you could make a joke about it and be like, "Oh, well, I don't want to spoil what you end up fighting," but it's like the actual model, the thing that you're fighting looks fucking ridiculous. But it's all relating to her biggest fear,
Mm,
like that I won't go into it, but the symbolism there of
yeah.
why that boss is designed the way it is, it it has to do with the deepest, darkest trauma a human could possibly face. Um, Man, what a video game. What a fucking video game. And yeah, I will give a quick shout out. I shit on the voice acting a little bit. I don't think it's bad per se. It's just, but I will say the like some of the grunting noises and shit as James is like swinging in the remake, it is excellent, man. And the more you're swinging over and over, like as you're consecutively just bashing these different enemies over the head, he'll grunt differently. Like, and he'll
Mm.
sound almost out of breath. What, like when you finish, when you finally just knock that enemy to fucking pieces, he's kind of like he's exasperated, It's there's some really cool shit like that in there. I will say enemy design not the best in either of the games. Not a lot of variety. Once again, do you really need it in a game like this? Probably not, but just trying to be fair here, objective. There's not a bunch of great enemy design.
The see, I don't know what any of the names of the enemies were, but like the first enemy that you fight in Silent Hill 2, Like
Hmm.
when you hit it and then it falls to the ground and scurries off. That's unsettling as hell. Have they kept that like animation and
Oh
like
yeah.
overhauled it at all? Because it did look kind of a little bit goofy,
It still looks
but
goofy. You're
it's still
talking.
unsettling the
Yep.
way it moves and how quick.
Yeah. It's you're talking about the character that's pretty much just the bottom half of their torso, and they run around just with their legs kind of on the ground scurrying around.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they look
they
like a
kept
pair of
those.
trousers.
Yeah, they kept
Killed
those.
by
They
denim.
they're terrifying. They're still terrifying. What you'll
Mm.
see those enemies do a lot is they'll be up under like desks and shit in the remake.
Oh God.
And so you'll be right near a desk and they'll just scurry across at you and you don't even see them bitches. They got some good jump scares, like the perfect amount of jump scares in this game. Not too much, but they happen pretty frequently. And everybody people are very split on jump scares. I fucking love jump scares if they're not overdone.
Mm. I'm right there with you. If they're not overdone and they're not, you know, they need to be balanced well, and it sounds like that's the case. Like, there's the one that you always think of in Resident Evil 7 with Jack and stuff like that's
Yep.
perfect. When you've worked up for that, where you're building that suspense and then that payoff. That's
Exactly. And when it makes sense for the character, it's all the better. For
good.
like a Jack or a Nemesis or a Mr. X or whatever the case may be, or a Pyramid Head. Um, yeah, man. Excellent, excellent video game. I we were talking earlier about the kind of the thing of I don't really get too scared of games, and I think that's why psychological horror I think that's why I like action horror a little bit more, just because it is like, go balls to the wall. It's still a good action video game as much as it is a good horror video game. I think that's the perfect thing about Silent Hill 2, the remake to me, where it keeps intact its psychological horror elements, but it's also a really good action horror game as well. Like the shooting is good, the movement is good. It's not Resident Evil level, but it's very fucking close. It's the closest thing we've seen so far, without a doubt. Shout out to Alone in the Dark. It's second closest. It really be Evil Within, but I gotta give Alone in the Dark a shout out on every fucking video.
Uh,
All right, man. Well, do you have anything else you want to hit off with Silent Hill 2, or should we?
um, well, just to pair with what you said of like, I think the reason I like the psychological stuff is because like with what I just said with how they would imagine it and stuff like that. When I'm playing the games, I love just like conspiracy theories and unraveling the story in my own mind and stuff like that. The less they actually tell me, the more I'm probably likely to enjoy a psychological game because then you're like, and you have to put the pieces together yourself, the little jigsaw and stuff like that. So for me, that's what I find so rewarding and why it didn't, because the combat in that original game is arse. It's just overhead slam bam, and then they give you like 500 bullets. The amount of bullets they give you in Silent Hill 2 compared to Resident Evil is crazy. Like you never run out of ammunition. I don't know if that's different in the remake, but in that original, like I had so many bullets and stuff, and I got to like halfway through the game, and I'm like barely using it because I'm like running, thinking this is Resident Evil and stuff, and they're not going to give me anything, and it's just like okay, I'm sitting here with like 200 handgun rounds. May as well just start using the damn thing.
Yeah, it's a little bit less than the remake. You're usually strapped up with ammo pretty well, but there are boss fights in the remake that are, and the original as well, they're just straight up bullet sponge ass
Mm,
bosses, and it'll deplete the fuck out of your ammo to the point where like you might spend 70, bullets in one fight. It gets pretty fucking brutal, especially the Eddie fight, which was pretty brutal in the
really?
yeah.
They didn't overhaul that? He's such a sponge.
It's it's still it's still so spongy in the remake, like very, very, very spongy. And I was using the pistol, so maybe that's my problem. Should have probably been using the rifle or the shotgun, but I'm probably similar in your vein where you want to hold the more powered weapons for
Mm.
when you're dealing with the final bosses. Um, so yeah, definitely some bullet spongy as boss encounters. Well, dude, guess we can now move from Silent Hill 2. You satisfied with the Silent Hill 2
Yeah.
discussion? All right.
Yeah, that was like 30 minutes.
All right. Hey, man, that's the if
The power of
people,
a great game.
yeah, and also the power of the internet.
Mm.
Fucking videos can be as long as they want to be. There's some short videos, some long videos. You'll get all that shit here. So,
I mean, it shows the impact as well. Me being the first time I ever played for it, completion wise, and we both had kind of doubts about the remake in many different ways, and it's nice to know that, I wouldn't have thought it would hit an A, if I'm being honest. That first
nor would I.
showing, I wouldn't have would have put betting on like a C,
Yep.
if I'm being honest, and being like, well, it's Konami. We could wish for more. But do you know what this gives me a lot more hope for as well? That Metal Gear remake.
Right.
Like as rough as some of them parts look, so did Silent Hill, but look what that's accomplished. And that's a cult classic and really important, and so was Metal Gear Solid 3 when it came out. So like you're building off the foundations. I think we just need to have faith in them. I think they're set, both of them.
Yeah. And I mean, you're talking about games too that are very faithful remakes, seemingly. The Silent Hill 2 is definitely a very faithful remake, but the MGS3 is super, super faithful from everything we've seen in the trailers.
Mm.
So excited, man. I'll now move on to Squirrel with a Gun.
What a tonal
I,
shift.
yeah, we'll go from Silent Hill to Squirrel with a Gun. Squirrel. Let's see. I'm surprised out the gate. I'll say that there's a story.
Oh damn.
Like I never would have thought that there was a story in Squirrel with a Gun. You are essentially like being you're in this facility and being kind of tested, and I don't even know. You might have been kind of a creation. You might be an artificially engineered squirrel with these superpowers that you have. You don't really have any. I guess you kind of do have some superpowers. You can jump like a motherfucker, and you can fall from 100 feet in the air and not die. So. Maybe you do got some scientifically engineered powers with your little squirrel ass. Um, but yeah, you're this guard comes out and he's kind of trying you, and you fuck the guard up, take his gun, shoot him, and then you break free from the facility. That's how the story kicks off. It's fucking hilarious, dude.
Is this
And
like a really tongue-in-cheek like quality cutscenes, or is it like actually like surprisingly higher budget than you would expect?
higher budget than you would expect, but definitely, yeah, it's tongue in cheek for sure. There's some goofy ass shit in this game, but there's like I don't know, maybe 20, 30 minutes of cutscenes, something like that. Like
Oh my God,
it's got a decent amount of cutscenes, dude.
that's
Um,
amazing.
yeah, and the story stays pretty consistently themed around this group of, I guess we'll call them CIA agents, FBI agents, whatever, who are trying to track down this damn squirrel who's just, you can go up to different civilians after you break free from the facility and just stick them up. You just put the gun in their face and they put their hands in the air and acorns drop out from their armpits. It's fucking hilarious, dude. Absolutely hilarious. You got a double jump, but how you do your double jump, you jump in the air and you shoot your gun at the ground and it propels you forward.
Oh, the Quake rocket jump. God, I love it.
Right, right. Um, yeah, man, it's fun. It's janky as fuck. There's moments where you're like, is this game broken? And then it's just like, no, it'll at first, I think everybody will have this experience. You go to pick up a gun and it says to press triangle, but you actually have to press R2 to pick up the gun. And I don't know. Well, I think triangle is you can press triangle at any time and it'll spawn a new gun, but it doesn't tell you that. So you're just sitting there pressing triangle over and over, not really understanding why nothing's happening.
Oh, and they're not falling from the sky while you're doing it.
Well, it's just like this little platform that they pop up onto, and you
Oh,
can't really
okay.
even see that a new one's popping up because it's just taking the place of the one that's already there. But it's not like throwing the one that's already there
Oh.
across the room or anything. Um, yeah, man, dude, there's sections of the game where the floor is like literally lava, and you're jumping around on couches and shit inside of these houses. The floor is lava. You're trying to avoid the floor, and it's got some decent platforming. There's no magnetism at all in the platforming. Like you were doing straight up platforming where you are going around, and if you fall, like there is no sort of uncharted rails to protect you from falling. You will fall. And if you're in a situation where there's lava underneath you, which for some reason there's often lava underneath. It's not really all that often, but you will fall to your death. And there's just some funny shit, dude. You can crawl on people's heads and shit. You can like steal people's phones. They'll take photos of you and you can like push them over and steal their phone. It's got that I haven't played the Untitled Goose Game. I picked it up, but it's got a
Mm,
lot of that energy from what I've seen with Untitled Goose Game. But there's just a lot more going on here.
yeah.
Um,
It sounds like Goat Simulator. That's why I was just looking up if they
yes.
were the same dev, but they're not. So it seems like they've kind of looked at the wackiness and the craziness that them games made, and like, ah, screw it, we'll go with that. And it just, yeah, it's just fun to have something really stupid
Yep.
sometimes.
Maneater, Goat
Mm,
Simulator, Squirrel with a Gun, Untitled Goose Game. Yeah, and you're right. Goat Simulator is a more apt comparison because you have like cars in here that you can drive around. It's pretty much like a what do they call it? Like a remote control car. It's about that
mm.
size that you hop into. You got a boat that you can drive later in the game. You got a little like a drone that you can fly around in later in the game. It's cool, dude. There's a section where there's a football field and you go and you're just roaming around the football field and the players are standing there and you're just like, okay, I, sure, they're not doing anything. They're not trying to harm you. They're just kind of like standing, running, doing like what do they call it? Like where you're running in place and doing their little drills and like, all right. But then you see a football on the field and you pick it up and all the players start chasing you, trying to tackle you. And so you're juking out the football players. And then when you go and score a touchdown, like a golden acorn pops up on the screen. And you got to, it's like a collectathon where you got to get
Mm,
enough golden acorns to progress to the next section of the game. But it doesn't tell you anything. Like all of this shit is discovery by natural playing of the game. And whenever you score the touchdown, the acorn pops up, you get the golden acorn, and then like, okay, I got enough acorns to progress, or maybe I need a couple more acorns. So you go off and fucking like there's one where there's a stripper pole inside of this house and you climb up the stripper pole and you start like doing, circling it and dropping down on it and shit. And it's this party of people. And whenever you get up on the pole, music starts playing. They're all asleep, but they wake up and they're like throwing acorns at you and shit. Whenever you're on the stripper pole. And then after you like you get enough money or whatever from the people, a golden acorn pops up and then it reveals like a whole secret room that you go up to and there's a basketball goal that you shoot the basketball and the goal actually like gets bigger and you got to like travel up through the house, different parts of the house, bust through the windows, hop up on the roof, grab the basketball, bring it with you on the roof, and then shoot the basketball from the roof to the goal. Another golden acorn will pop up. Like it's just cool, fun, inventive
mm.
shit like that, man. Um,
It's
yeah.
just the beauty of a proper physics sandbox,
Yes.
and just adding that with the collectathon nature, and it just everything falls together. Having the comedic tone that it has, it just sounds really good, and it's fairly cheap.
Yeah.
Like they knew what they were going for, and they've kept it as a low barrier of entry. I think it's going to sell quite a lot more copies than they probably thought.
You know what bums me out, man? You'll go on YouTube and you'll see playthroughs if you type in full playthrough, because everybody who plays this game is going to have to look up guides. Like it's so obtuse. It's so hard to figure out what to do. Like there's no guide. It's directionless
Hmm.
to a point that some people might consider it a fault, but you spend 2 seconds looking up on YouTube and you find the answer. But if you look up full game of Squirrel with a Gun, it's usually videos are only like an hour, 2 hours long. So it makes you think the game's only 2 hours long. But if you are playing this game without a guide, you will spend 20 hours in this thing
Hmm.
just trying to discover. And even if you play with a guide, which so what I do with pretty much every game is if I'm like truly banging my head against the wall and can't figure something out, then I'll look up a guide. But I don't play an entire game with a guide. And so even me, whenever I would bang my head against the wall and use a guide, I still probably put 10 hours into this thing before I finished it. Like it's enough game there to warrant your $30 or whatever super cheap price tag, and that's for the physical. It's probably even cheaper digitally. Um, yeah, so I finished this one. I'll go solid B tier for Squirrel with a Gun. I I'd be surprised if that's not my top 10 games of the year at the end of the year. Like, I know it's silly, a gimmick game, but that's a fun fucking video game. Really fun video game. Good weapon diversity, ragdoll physics, good game.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with having a wacky game, making it in the top 10. You know, games are meant to be fun, guys. This sounds like a really, really fun game.
Well, hey, speaking of wacky, I'll go ahead and throw this one real quick. Looney Tunes Wacky World of Sports. I'll zoom in on it so that people can see the title. Looney Tunes Wacky World of Sports, and I'll also zoom in where I'm putting it. DNF. I haven't finished it, but it's a DNF. And I don't even know if there's really a game you can finish. I went through and did like a round of the games where you play all the games. I won the gold tournament, all that shit. So, and I played a good bit of the game. I probably played 5 hours of it. But man, a really bad arcade sports game. A really, really bad arcade sports game. It's got golf, tennis, basketball, and soccer. And basketball is my favorite sport, and the arcade basketball in this game is atrocious. You will figure out how to line up your shot and you just never miss, ever. And it's almost impossible to block people's shots. So, if you're playing someone in a couch co-op setting, it's just going to be two people hitting shots nonstop, over and over and over. And there's goaltending, which is like, dude, you do not put goaltending where that's where if you jump up, you block the shot. If it's above the rim, they'll call it goaltending. You cannot put that in an arcade basketball game. That is such a stupid fucking rule for arcade basketball. You want the game to be over the top and silly. And whenever defense is that hard and whenever offense is that easy, having a feature like or having a rule like goaltending imposed upon the game is really going to fuck up the flow of the game overall. So yeah, the basketball was really rough. Some of the other sports aren't as bad, but there's no like real juke moves or there's nothing you can really do in the basketball game other than just shoot. And the shooting is so fucking easy that yeah, I don't know. And it's game mill, so
Oh God.
yeah. I knew it was going to be dog shit. I had a good feeling, but anytime an arcade sports game is introduced, I'm going to buy it. Like, I don't care who it is. I'm going to buy every arcade sports game.
So not to dwell on it for too long, but the thing that baffles me is who is like not to dig at you, but who is like buying these though, like regularly enough for them to get greenlit? Because the thing that's always baffled me is how many kart races get made. I don't know if you've seen how many like Sonic. You obviously have Mario that they must be trying to contend with, but you have stuff like Nickelodeon and stuff, and all of these, and it's just like none of them feel good. And like you said, that a lot of the things in this game were felt underbaked, the basketball and stuff like that. Which, how are you messing up basketball as like an arcadey game when that's probably going to be one of the most popular sports on the title? Like that's crazy.
It's crazy. And the thing that you make a good point, how do they get so many licenses as well? It's not that they're
Yeah,
just making their own bad games. They're making bad Looney Tunes games and bad fucking everything. Everything that they touch, King Kong. Um, I mean, it's
good old
crazy.
Gollum.
Was that
Ooh,
Game Mill?
yeah. They
Jesus
made
Christ,
they
man.
made three, didn't they? It was Gollum. Or was it? I think it was them because they did the King Kong and what was the other one? There was three that they released that
Yeah.
year, I believe.
Yeah, I remember it was last year. It was 2022 or 2023. It was quite a few back to back to back. I thought
Oh,
Gollum
the
was
Walking Dead.
yep,
The Walking Dead was
Destinies or
them.
whatever.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Yeah. Because I thought Gollum was Embracer. But
I'm gonna go
Embracer
look it
might
up.
be they might be fucking Game Mill for all I know. But yeah, instead of making one decent sports game, they made four bad ones. So,
None of that was Dead Alec. Okay.
okay.
Sorry, Dead Alec.
Um
There's a reason you went under. That weren't it, Chief. I'm sorry.
yeah. But yeah, dude, I've talked about it many times on the channel, so I don't really need to go on too much. This used to be arcade sports games were probably my favorite genre ever at a certain time during the PS2 era. So like I have such a craving for games of this ilk that I'll buy any of them, even though I knew that it was game mill, even though I knew it was going to be dog shit. Like it's just one of those things, man, where if you have a genre that you want to play any and all games inside of it, you're gonna pick up some dumb shit like Looney Tunes Wacky World of Sports. It at
Do
least
you
has a
think
physical copy, so I could sell it if I wanted to.
do you think there's actually a space for them in today's market though?
Fuck yeah, man. I mean, you look at things like you can't look at NBA Street because it was 20 years ago, but those games were like some of the best-selling games on the market
But
when they came out.
I don't know. I feel like they've been replaced by like stuff like Rocket League and stuff. When you have that kind of sports, like that's been so rock solid. It's been there for like 8 years now. It's been out
Yeah.
7, 8 years, and its player base hasn't dropped. So because I'm saying this because they've tried to capture that lightning in a bottle with other stuff. They did like Turbo Golf Racing or something, which was very similar to Rocket League, just as golf, and that didn't take off. They've got basketball in Rocket League, so you can't really compete with them.
Yeah,
They,
it would have to be the license. It would have to be the NBA or the NFL. Like I don't know, but even then, like I say that, and you look at Wild Card Football that came out last year, I don't think it performed all that well, and it had real NFL players in the game. And
mm,
yeah, so maybe there's not a market for it, but I do think if you had a cool feature, like say there was one that came out, like we talk about with what is it, Soccer Story, and they have those games that are like story-based sports games. Imagine if you
Pyre
just
is a perfect example.
Higher, yeah, you can't get a better example than that. Imagine if you just had one that was like basketball or football or like a more not triple A but double A soccer game. Or I think there is a market for it, but it's the sports market right now is so fucking greedy that if it's
Mm,
not making like billions, then they're not even going to invest in it. And they'll do it in the mobile space because
no,
they can get a
absolutely.
couple, they can get a couple whales that spend 100 grand on one individual game, and it's like, cool. They paid for their budget with 10 people.
Mm, absolutely.
You can go ahead and what you wanna rank next, man?
Um, I will switch things up, and I'll actually go with Wanted Dead. Just go completely random there. So I have been wanting to talk about this. You beat this last year.
Yep.
It was a game that I played at release, but it was very buggy on the Xbox, unfortunately. So it's kind of like bounced off, and because it was a little bit rough, it's like the thing where I'll wait and hope that it gets patched because there's not going to be really much. I'm not going to sit through like 8 hours of buggy combat and stuff like that. But I'm glad I waited because it was a blast. It's so dumb. It's so unbelievably dumb on like every single front that you could imagine. Just I, it's hard to put into words because it's a bit of everything. It feels like if they've got like the spirit of Yakuza where they just couldn't say no. Anybody that was in like the meeting room, they were like, "Yeah, let's add karaoke." What do you like, Jim? I like claw machines. All right, we'll add that in. Why not?
Yeah.
Have this, have that. There's a freaking you're eating a noodle mini game and stuff like it's just craziness. And then it has so much charm as well for what it is. For the budget that it has hardly any budget, but they really squeeze every ounce of charm out of it. Like the even the loading screens where you have the guy with the meme where he holds his face screaming every single time you're transitioning between areas and stuff. Um, the combat is it was one of them things where it's awful. It's objectively awful in the beginning, and this is the thing of like the same issues I had with Evil West. It's so weak at the start, and yet you get like 3 hours in, and because you've unlocked all the skills and powers, it's some of the best combat feeling that you can have, especially for with what the budget was for Wanted Dead. The things that it was pulling off in the end, it felt really good. And it's just like you guys I know you guys wanted that whole thing of ticking off that it has like a skill tree and stuff because everybody has to have a skill tree. I think it would have just been much better with it not having any XP and just having that from the get-go. Have it like a skill depend, learn how to do these and make them button combos and stuff like that instead. I don't know if you feel differently about that.
Yeah, I never found the combat to be like incredible, but you are right. The further along you go in the game, the more you understand the combat, the more you upgrade and like the different abilities that are on offer. Like it does become more fun to play. I To me it was all about the insanity of it. That was really
Mm.
the thing driving me. Battling The Rock and Tom Cruise and like, are you fucking kidding me? I'm literally fighting a character that looks just like Tom Cruise, but enough different to not get sued. Like just enough different to not get sued.
That final fight was brutal as well. I don't know if you remember it. I don't even remember his name. He's at the beginning of the game. He's like the guy with the military outfit,
Hmm.
Krieger or some crap. And it's just, he kicked my teeth in. It's one of them rare instances where I had to use every healing item because he was that brutal, and it was just like, okay, that I'm glad that's over, and there's no more of that.
Were you
But
playing on the normal difficulty?
um,
Because what I did, I played through about half the game and I got stomped in a certain
mm,
boss fight over and over and over. And I literally started the game over from the beginning on the lower difficulty and played through it all again because I liked the game so much that I
I
just
think
wanted to see.
that's something they changed because you said you couldn't change the difficulty mid
No.
before. I think they changed that. 'Cause I think it offered
Oh,
me the ability to move it down.
okay.
So that was a nice because I wouldn't have gone back and done like 4 hours of that myself.
Yeah. I really
Uh,
enjoyed that damn game.
I did enjoy it. I don't think I would have put myself through because it would have been my third crack at it. Would have
Yeah.
been the thing. But yeah, it's one of them things. I just love cheesy shit. So like, if I was being really, really harsh and objective, it'd probably be like a D or a C. But my enjoyment of it probably a B.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if I'd ever recommend anyone buy it. It's one of
Right.
them things where it's an acquired taste.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what I said too when I was talking about it last year. I was like, this isn't
Yeah.
a game I could really recommend to anybody, unless this, and this
Mm,
meets what you prefer as a gamer. Like if you like really janky, really wonky shit, but very, very unique, very original, but a game that will frustrate you and it
mhm.
has very little to do with you as a player and a lot to do with the game mechanically. Um, so yeah, it's just it's so original though. So original. All right. I will move on to Neva. So uh, I'm gonna say Neva because that's how the lady in the game, that's how she pronounces her baby wolf's name, or you know. So I'll just say the game starts off and it is this mama wolf who is trying to protect you and her baby wolf from this uh I don't know, blight sort of I don't even know what to call it. It's like this oily substance.
Corruption?
Yeah, that type of thing. And but she ends up this isn't a spoiler, this is the very start of the game. She ends up getting she is defeated. She ends up dying. And now it is your duty to raise the baby wolf. And you're playing as this slightly older lady who might not necessarily feel all that capable of taking care of a baby wolf and keeping her out of danger and keeping her away from this blight and these different creatures that you'll encounter throughout the game. And the first thing that's immediately apparent is the art style. It's top tier. I would be so surprised if this wasn't nominated for best art direction.
Mm.
I don't know if I selected it for best art direction in our predictions, but if I didn't, I should have. It will be nominated, or it should be nominated. And moments. This is a game of moments. There is a moment early on where Neva misses a jump and she falls, and it's like noticeable that she's disappointed, that the baby wolf is disappointed, and she tries again. She gets back up to the cliff and she wants to try again. But before jumping, she's like noticeably unconfident in her ability to make the jump. So you cheer her on, and then you're cheering her on to let her know you can do it, you can do it. And she makes the jump the next time, and it's so sweet. And you can go over to the wolf and hold triangle, and you'll like give her a pet, or sometimes you'll give her a hug, and the baby wolf will like leap up onto you, and she'll like press her head against your neck. It's so sweet. It's such a sweet game. There's moments where you'll see like an orange tree, and it won't be a part of the main path or anything, but you'll just go over to the tree. That way Neva can grab some oranges that fell on the ground, and you're just kind of sitting there, and you're happy that you're happy that your little wolf pup is getting some nutrients. And there's just a lot of really wholesome shit like that. The combat, so I haven't played Gree, is that how you say it?
Yeah.
I haven't played Gree. It I know one of the big complaints was that it's just pretty much moving a character across a 2D plane and seeing beautiful environments and getting sort of like a subtle, wholesome message with the story.
Hmm.
This added in combat. It's pretty simple, but it gets more and more challenging throughout the game. It's pretty much a 2D side scroller with some sword action driven combat. But they do have cool mechanics. Like if you get hit in midair, you can still kind of rebound. So you'll get hit in midair, and while in air, you can do another attack and like lunge towards the enemy. So there's like this nice momentum to the rebound. You'll get hit, but you'll still be floating. You can bounce back and kind of leap forward in one motion. Um, and then there are a few mechanics like that that I really appreciate, and I appreciate the sense of urgency to the combat, because you're trying to prevent Neva from being captured or being attacked or being hurt, so you'll end up taking damage to prevent her from taking damage. And
Hmm.
it provides that maternal or paternal instinct, that motherly instinct, where you are more worried about the well-being of your little wolf pup than you are about your own well-being. And you can string together combos and you'll regain health. And then there's like a air dash double jump, and then you can jump up in the air and like swing your sword downward and do these downward attacks. There's some good physics in place. It's not like ragdoll physics per se, but enemies will go flying in the direction that you hit them. And yeah, there's like there's chase sections that can be a little bit annoying, where the blight will pop up, and like you'll be getting chased by a wolf or something, or by some big ass imposing, scary looking creature.
Hmm.
And you'll be running and jumping, doing your 2D platforming, and you'll jump, and it looks like clean ground for you to land on, but last second the blight will pop up and you won't notice it, and you'll be like restrained, and the wolf will get you, or whatever the case may be, or you'll just die from landing on I don't know what to call it, the what did you call it, the corruption, we'll call it the corruption. uh yeah, there's some of that shit that can be a little bit annoying,
Oh,
but
there's no like escape button. They don't even give you like an out. It's just
no.
instant fail.
Yeah.
See,
And
that's the kind of stuff I hate in like 2D, like side scrolling and stuff like that. That kind of instant fail, and it grates me. How's the puzzles? Or are there
they're
not many?
I think the puzzles are actually one of the strong points of the game. They're so they're always like one or two layers deeper than your initial thought, which I think
Mm,
is the perfect level of depth for a puzzle. You're not going to get almost anything instantly, but the flow is continuous and uninterrupted, because you're never like, I don't remember looking up anything for the puzzles in this game. And that to me is perfect, because it's like Astrobot. The
mm.
flow is just going. It might not be the first thing you think of, but it might be the second or third solution, the second or third option that you try, and you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Everything makes sense. Um, it's never one of those things where you figure it out and you're like, I would have never got that. Everything it will come to you naturally without having to look it up.
That's good.
And Yeah, there's some really cool sections in this game, dude. There really are. There's a red level. I won't go into it any more than that. I'll just say a red level that has some of the best atmosphere I've seen in video games in a long time. There's a section where you're fighting enemy reflections that is so fucking sick. Just a really unique a unique concept that I haven't seen or that I can't remember ever seeing in a game before. So
Hmm,
yeah, cool game. I will. The story hits hard. It's one that it'll pull a tear or two out of you. Not like one of the most emotional, hard-hitting stories in the world. It's all told through very subtle storytelling where it's not like hitting you over the head with a bunch of dialogue. You see the events take place and you feel the immersion by caring for that little baby wolf. And you know, yeah, I won't really go into anything more story related. I'll put it in the B tier though. I like the gameplay of Squirrel with a Gun more for sure.
hmm.
I think I like everything about Squirrel with a Gun more, but Neva has some incredible art style and just some really emotional, hard-hitting beats. So
Cool.
we now move. You can hit one off your list if you want to, main, just wherever you want to go.
Yeah, I'll just quickly rattle off Modern Warfare 3. I'm sure everybody's heard of it. It's
Okay.
not really a small series.
Yeah.
This is the 360 one. Um, just needed something. I can't remember what it was that I finished before. I think it was Diablo 4, and then I did Modern Warfare 3 after. So I need something quick and easy to be a palate cleanser. And yeah, it's for me the Modern Warfare trilogy for the 360 is the best Call of Duty like trio that they've ever done. It still just hits hard. You think of like the most impactful moments in the COD campaigns all happened in them three games. Like every single entry in that Modern Warfare, it had a gut-wrenching moment. Like you're playing through Modern Warfare 3 and you see London get bombed while you're with a kid and they don't pull punches, and that was the same with like the nuke thing that they did in the previous games. So there's really heavy hitting stuff, but then at the same time, just has a satisfying conclusion that the villain you've been chasing for 3 games finally gets his comeuppance and stuff. So that's always just very satisfying and stuff. It's just what you'd expect a classic COD campaign, so nothing out of the ordinary. I'd probably put it in B for me.
Nice.
You mentioned that you're going to be trying out the new Black Ops on Game Pass later. When does it launch? This month or
Yeah, the
next month?
26th or 25th, I think, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken. I'll definitely be jumping in once again if this was one of those months where I can't really say I'll necessarily definitely be jumping in. I'd like to, but I'm gonna Alan Wake 2 is definitely taking top priority. But this is one of those months where I already would have jumped in. If we were recording this normally, we would probably be recording on like the 28th or whatever and get it uploaded on the 31st without a problem. So I probably would
Hmm.
have already jumped in. But yeah, there's way too much this month. But I do want to at least check out that campaign for sure.
Yeah, that's something they always get right is the campaigns and stuff. 9 times out of 10, I should say.
Yeah,
So yeah, a very quick one. It's not something that really needs explain. It's been around
totally.
for a while.
Well, I'll talk about Undisputed, the new boxing game that just released, the first AAA boxing game since Fight Night in 2011 or so. I'd say 2011, 2012, something like that. I'll just say, we haven't had a Fight Night game for 2 generations now. There wasn't one on the PlayStation 4 and there hasn't been one on the PlayStation 5. So we're 2 generations in, no Fight Night games. And Undisputed, it fills a void that is massively like this thing is selling really, really fucking well. So you feel that, oh damn. And there's rumor right now that EA is gonna get back to making Fight Night after they saw the success of Undisputed,
Mm,
which is kind of fucked up, but at the same time, competition breeds excellence in some capacity. So maybe we can have two more semi fighting games going at it with one another, which I would be all in favor of. But yeah, Undisputed plays fine. I think there's something strong to build on for future entries in the series if we ever see future entries in the series. It plays just like Fight Night. You know, square and circle, those are your hooks. X and triangle, those are your jabs. And then combining like X and triangle, you get your uppercut. You can use the analog stick to pull off some slightly different variation to those punches, but that's pretty much how you pull everything off. You have the slight bobbing and weaving that you can do. I think that's by holding L2 and pulling back on the left thumbstick or forward, and your character will kind of bob and weave in whatever motion you press. So it's got those elements from Fight Night that you know and love. The thing about this game, the character creation, is horseshit. It is,
No, that's the whole fun of it.
dude, it's such a fun element of sports games is creating your character. It is so bad. The hair options are super limited. Tattoo options are so goofy. Not much real in-depth body customization. So I just went and I created this big old tank. This big old tank of a human. Put all my points into punching power, and I was just flatlining motherfuckers. Just a minute into a fight, dude's going to sleep.
Butter beaning them. That's what
Yeah,
it was.
absolutely, dude. Um, it is cool that you can do a female or male career mode, though. I think, if I'm not mistaken, that's the first time ever in a boxing game. That is super sick. And I think they understand boxing from like a presentation angle. It's on a limited budget, but they give you nice clean formats and setups for everything. Like the when you go in and you have a tournament mode early on in the game, the bracket presentation is all nice and detailed, and you can see who advanced, who lost, and like it leads up into this good culmination where you see how the two winners, or how the two people who are facing off in the championship, how they got there. And like there's good cuts where the blood will run down the face and onto the body. Like it is good from a presentation lens. I think the lighting is really strong. They do like this they have this cool blur effect where they'll blur out a lot of the background, so it really looks like the light is just hitting perfectly on the ring and on the characters. And character modeling for the Tyson Furies and Deontay Wilders and the people that you know, the fighters that you know, those character models are excellent. The created character models are horseshit. They're really fucking awful. They're awful. Um, what else? Let's see. Looking through my notes here. Negotiations. You have like negotiations for your contracts. They're pretty cool. Where it'll be like, I don't want to rematch this power puncher who like they hold the title. So you're gonna take okay, so say this power puncher holds the title and you get the chance to fight for the title. You can go in and negotiate where like I'm going to take less on the purse. So I'll take less proceeds, but I want it to be a situation where if I take less money, I can sign up to not give you a rematch if I win. So it like say for instance you want 40% of the take home and he's expecting to get 80%. So you just bumped it up 20% in your favor. So he would have to come down 20%. So he's going to be like, well, what can I get from you? Okay, well, we were going to fight on your home turf, but now I want to fight on my home turf because you're taking more of my money. So there's like cool negotiations that you can do like that. And I would give them more money at the start, and I would just make it to where I didn't have to rematch them. So I was just constantly fighting new people, which I just preferred the variety. Um, and then whenever you're ranked up further on throughout the game, you'll be able to be like, I want 90% of the fucking take home. You can get 10%. And you're fighting like Roy Jones Jr. and motherfuckers who are accepting 10% because you're 40 something and oh, you're got millions of followers and you're the big draw. And I should say, I started off on easy, playing it on easy, and then you can't change midway through the career mode, which I did think was kind of shitty because that's often what I
Mm.
do with pretty much any sort of fighting game when I'm learning the ropes because I don't like going through the tutorial mode. I'm just like, let me actually play and then I'll learn it
Let
and
me
then
button
I'll
mash and get my groove, and then let me up
absolutely.
it and get my ass beat.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, playing it on easy was way, way, way too easy. I wish I could have, but by then I was like 15, 20 fights in, because once you get to the pros, that was really the test for me, where it's like once I start fighting Tyson Furies and Roy Joneses and people of that ilk, am I still just knocking these motherfuckers out cold? And if so, I'd like to upgrade the difficulty or, level up the difficulty. And then when I couldn't do that, I was like, that's really unfortunate. That seems like that'd be an easy feature to patch in though. But then I went and played, I started another career mode after I went 50 something and 0, won all the titles and finished the career mode. And then I went and started another one and played that one on normal, and I was still flatlining motherfuckers. I went and played some quick matches on normal. I played with Deontay Wilder, I flatlined Tyson Fury. So like it's not a hard game. I think that if you want to get the most out of the difficulty, you're going to really want to ratchet that thing up to the absolute hardest to maximize that. But yeah, there's cool shit in here where and staying right there with the contract thing, the fighters can like get offended. And so you'll say, okay, they'll have it to where you're going to take home 32% of the cut and you'll up it to 50, and they'll get pissed and they'll drop your cut from 32 to 19 the next time. And you're like, well, fuck, I guess I'll take 32. And they might decline the 32, because they're mad at you. There's some cool shit in there. It is a bummer. Certain things like the training, there's no mini games for the training, which is like Don King's boxing back on the 360
Yeah.
had mini games for their training, and that was, lower budget. I don't know. That probably wasn't lower budget than this. I think that was 2K that was back in that. But there's some there's some lower budget shit in here. Like all the get up animations are the same. So when you get knocked down, every single time you see a character get back up, they do the exact same animation. Um, yeah. So there's definitely some shit like that that's
It,
not of the highest
I
budget.
feel like by the sounds of it, because there's a lot of positives and
Mhm.
them negatives that you've got are things that can be easily implemented in an next title. I think it was the case of maybe we haven't seen a boxing game in so long.
Yep.
So you're just testing the water. You're like, okay, we'll get a lot of the foundations right. We can't put too much budget and stuff into this. We'll see if there's appeal and see if people actually want this. And it seems like people do. So hopefully they don't just set this as the baseline now and they build off of it is what needs to happen. Like make it relevant, make it go toe to toe with the UFC games. Because they've been stagnating for a while now. Like let's go. Give it
Yeah.
competition.
Totally, man. And I probably the biggest issue that most people are going to have with the game, and I don't know if they'll get this cleaned up anytime soon, is the performance issues. There's major, major frame rate dips. And if you're playing this competitively, I'm playing offline and
Mm,
getting massive frame rate dips in this thing. And that's going to be something that puts a lot of people off. Uh and I hate to keep on going negative, but like there's no media interviews, so there's no like cut scenes or there's no real story here whatsoever. You're just playing through fights. And thankfully, the fighting is good, the gameplay is good. But I think for that I'd have to go. I'm gonna go C, and I think that's a little generous. I think you can make a real case that it's a D tier game, but I just think the fundamentals, the moment to moment, the actual boxing is good. It is fun. There is a foundation, like WWE. They came back with 2K22 after taking the year off of 21, and then 23 was better than 22, 24 was better than 23. Hopefully 25 is better than 24. Let's just keep getting better. So
mm.
we'll go C tier.
Is it me now?
Yeah.
Picking a title. I'll match you with a C tier, and I'll go with Halo Infinite.
Okay.
It was the final Halo game that I hadn't finished, and went through and played it. The When I spoke to a friend straight after, it was the thing that I said is that was a completely wasted opportunity. Like from a standpoint, like the combat is good, it feels really good, but it's felt good for the past few games, in my opinion. That story goes nowhere. It just felt like you've wasted 8 hours. There was no character arc. There was no resolution or anything. It's just, huh, been here, done that. Like it. it makes me wonder why they keep fixating on him as a character. I get that he's like iconic and stuff, and he's one of the people that you think of when you think of Xbox, but I don't know, man. I think he's done as a character. There's not really much you can push it. And the way that you write him as a character on top of that, there isn't also anywhere that you can push it. He's just stoic. That is it. That's the one and only thing that he has in his drawer. And this story did nothing but reaffirm that as a feeling.
Yeah, how do you feel about the direction they're taking now, going from 343 to Halo Studios, seemingly doubling, tripling down that that's going to be what they do for the remainder of their existence, and maybe licensing the game out to other developers and
It, the thing that I'm hoping happens here is just slowly move away from him. Like you don't. The thing is that something like this, you don't need him to be the main character because he doesn't do anything in the story. Like you could have any other character be there, and they've shown it already that they can write. It was admittedly Bungie, but they can write a compelling Halo story where he isn't in the game. Halo Reach is one of the best Halo games. It doesn't have him in it. It focuses on a completely different set of characters. And the thing that annoys me is that I know that you don't really get involved in like media outside of gaming that's tied to gaming. So like the comics of stuff and animated movies and stuff. Halo has such a rich, expanded universe, and they just don't use it. It's baffling. It really is baffling. So I'm just hoping with this announcement and them supposedly, taking it more seriously as an IP, give us new stuff. I don't want Chief. I don't care about him. Give me stuff that's going on. Give me the perspective of like the aliens. Maybe a game where you play as the aliens because you constantly portray the UNSC as like the good guys. They do just as much genociding as the aliens do and stuff like that. So yeah, it just
yeah.
needs a change. It needs a change, and yeah, give me Halo Wars free as well. Give me that. I'll go for one of them.
Well, how about we stay in the C tier and we stay in the Xbox land as well? I'll go Starfield Shattered Space in the C tier. I
Ouch.
Yeah, it's I've seen people like giving this thing like a 3 out of 10. It's not a fucking 3 out of 10. It's just not that great. It's not awful. There's real performance issues here that was shocking to me, given that I didn't experience massive performance issues in the base game, like on launch. I didn't have nearly as many performance issues on at launch with Starfield, the big Starfield, the expansive, go anywhere, do anything. Like the real game had less performance issues than Shattered Space, which was weird.
Mm.
So you know what I really hope with this is they're just throwing it out there. Like, fucking here it is. Here's the DLC that we promised. We're done. We're moving on. All focused towards Elder Scrolls 6 from this point on. I really hope that this is like the last of anything to do with Starfield. Um,
I don't think it is.
yeah,
I think uh correct me if I'm wrong, anybody in the comments, but it's I think at least each Bethesda RPGs had like 3 to 4 DLCs each. So even when they've performed badly, because you got to think 76, they had the easiest excuse to shut that shit down, and they continue to pour stuff into that.
true.
This will be something that gets 3 more expansions at the minimum, and their biggest hope is that modders come in and pick up all of the chips that they've left on the floor as usual. That's my frustration with Bethesda as a on their side of doing RPGs and stuff.
Yeah,
They they coast. They coast so much and coast off of the goodwill, and there's only so much of it, and they really are. They're running down and they're getting down to the very sole of their shoe. It's gonna start scraping sock and skin soon.
yeah,
And that's yeah, because people are worried about Elder Scrolls 6 now. You shouldn't have that as a worry. That's That's not good. When you've performed so badly that people are worried about your other iconic series that got you to that point in the first place.
Yeah, and it's the thing too where it took 10 years to go from Fallout to Starfield almost. So it's like if we keep doubling and tripling down, okay, we got four more expansions for Starfield. We also have Fallout 76 that we're working on. Dude, Elder Scrolls 6 might be 2035. Like I don't
Mm,
think so, but it's gonna be 2030, I assume. 6 years out. Like legit. I don't even think that's I think that's being somewhat safe in that assumption. It could be longer than that. But anyways, Starfield Shattered Space, it takes a while to get going. Um, and I think even when it does get going, it doesn't go anywhere all that interesting.
mm,
It gives you a Dead Space vibe early on. I think it's much spookier than the base game, and playing it in third person, which is what I've been doing with Starfield lately. Um, it allowed me to really feel that kind of something that I've always wanted, which is a horror RPG. You
mm.
know, it felt like I was playing a Dead Space role playing game, and I really liked the religion versus science themes and how they're dividing the house. The it's pretty much these different segments within the house are divided within the idea of okay, science is how we're going to get to where we need to go versus religion is how we're going to get to where we need to go. And it's like a faith-based practice on with some of the factions within the faction, and then it's more of a science-based uh faction within some of the factions within the faction. But yeah, the overarching story with the House of Arun, I thought that they were going to go somewhere much more interesting than they did here, because that was the most compelling thing about Starfield to me, was just
Hmm.
this dangling on the carrot where it's like, oh, over there they got some shit going on. Like it's this crazy culty, just super fucking spooky. Because I Andrasia was the chick that I ended up marrying in Starfield. Like she was my ride or die. My Bonnie and Clyde. She was she was my right hand woman. And so I took her into Shattered Space with me. And House of Varun, that's her backstory. That's where she comes from. And I was really disappointed by, like, she just did it. They didn't really include her as like a major player in the story for Shattered Space, where I thought they would have, some family drama pop up with her in the main story for Shattered Space. I thought they would have like some big moments. It's really not. And I guess that's because they have to account for if you bring Sarah with you, or if you bring, any of these.
No, no, I can't accept that. I
I'm
can't
not
accept that
I'm not making an
because
excuse. I'm just saying that I think that that's probably the reason why.
yeah,
And I think that that's kind of a lazy thing where it's like
y-
you should be accounting for, if you brought the chick who her backstory is with the House of Varun, you should be accounting for that. It doesn't matter if you can bring other characters in, because it makes you feel kind of it makes it feel like irrelevant to even bring her. It doesn't. There are certain moments where she speaks out and she has shit to say regarding shit going on within the House of Varun.
no. I think that there should have been a lot more emphasis on bringing her because it would be like I don't. You didn't make it all that far into Baldur's Gate, did you?
No.
So you take Lae'zel to where her people are. She has so much to say. And she's even like the thing is that they live differently. They're a warrior tribe. So she's defending it. And that's you would expect that. That's what she's grown up with. So you have a bunch of the other characters who are like, this is foreign, this is weird. Why would they do that? And she's like, no, this is what you need to become a strong warrior and stuff like that. And then you have an entire plot thread, a very strong plot thread that would change if she isn't there. And whereas if she is there. So to have a character that comes from that faction and to not have her be the driving force, that's baffling.
Yeah.
That is absolutely baffling, and it's just lazy. It's lazy writing because that's what if you wrote that, that's the hook to bring her along
Yeah.
because that's the logical thing. If you're going in and you're invested in this universe, who are you going to bring to Varun? maybe the character that came from.
Totally.
So yeah, it's my frustration with them of just not thinking like that. That's they say that they're an RPG, but they're not. And one more thing that I wanted to also give it a jab for, because I always like jabbing Bethesda, apparently, is they claim to be an RPG, but you start that DLC and you have to do it one way. You have to join, right? The cult. There's no other way of getting in and accessing the DLC. That's not giving option.
Uh, I don't think so, actually. I
Oh, is it
think,
not?
yeah, I could be wrong because I joined, but they were definitely presenting it as such where I didn't
Hmm.
have to. I don't know for sure because I did join because I just thought that was interesting. They're doing a bunch of weird shit, and I was like, oh fuck yeah, you want me to kill this pig and sacrifice its blood and do all that? Fuck yeah, I'll join your weird satanic your
Because I
weird satanic
believe
cult.
I believe it was all the can't think of the word for it now. It was presented that way, but there wasn't actually an alternative.
Hmm.
And it's that just always that always bums me out. It's always good to have like an alternative option. Why do I like I get it, it's the thing, but that's choice, isn't it? Like you boot up Wasteland free and you can go toe to the toe with the Patriarch at the very beginning. You don't win. It's impossible to win, but they give you that option and they slap you back down like you're an idiot.
Yeah. Yeah, they
And that's the
definitely.
beauty of it. It would be like, okay, we'll go in full blazing and we'll attack Varun or something. And it's like, no, you're on their turf and you get obliterated. And it'd be like, okay, that is choice. It's a
Yeah.
really dumb choice, but it would be beautiful to have that choice.
Yeah, they did. They definitely. It seems like they don't really let you be the uh antagonist, which I understand that could be fun, like trying to take on the House of Rune. And even towards the end of the game, there's a decision that you could make. I didn't once again. I just saw this where it is very limited. Like you'll make the decision, and they're like, "Well, that's a dumb decision. You wouldn't actually want to do that." And then they give you back to the actual options that you can make, and it's like, "Well, why present an option for me in this dialogue that I actually can't interact with?" Yeah, it's that. There's no doubt problems with Bethesda's game design at this point. I loved Starfield, the base game. This is definitely disappointing though. I think environmentally they got some somewhat cool shit going on, but it's a lot of repetition. And yeah, it's not a fucking 3 out of 10. I've played 3 out of 10
No,
games. It's not that
even me critiquing it, no. It would if I was experiencing it, I think it's overpriced what it is. It's short from
for
what I've heard.
sure. You know what? Yep, I'm dropping it to the D for that alone because it's the same price as fucking Phantom Liberty.
Yep. And
Phantom
that's what I
Liberty's
mean.
a game.
It's like 4 hours, right? 4 or 5 hours,
It probably took me about
roughly.
seven, six,
Okay.
7. But I also explored, dicked around, did some side quests and shit.
And yeah, it leaves a lot to be wanting. The base game feels a lot better as a complete package from what I've seen. There was a cool the thing I'll give it credit for, they hardly use the zero G stuff in the
Yep.
base game, really. There's only one instance that like springs to mind. And I don't think there's as much of it in Shattered Space, but there's a lot more of it.
They
And
had
there's a
the
really cool section where you open it and it all the debris comes out and it's like but that's the double-edged sword of like you can only get away with this is why they stick with the creation and it's only that engine that can really utilize something like that in that capacity and it's like you guys just need to move on. That wasn't worth constricting yourself to 55 loading screens to have that kind of physics in a game
Yep.
for
And them
me.
loading screens are still there, boy.
Yeah,
They are
I,
still
I
there.
would imagine that's not something that you can really fix,
Which is
unfortunately.
crazy with a game that's much more and not linear, but much more linear than something like Starfield to still be very loading screen dependent. But yeah, I'm gonna go D tier. Thinking about that, because like if I was reviewing it, I probably would give it a 65 or something, which is you could round that up to a C. But yeah, we'll go 65 D tier. Starfield Shattered Space.
Me now, right?
Yeah.
I'll rattle it off quick because that was we need to get these gone through. Silent Hill 3. Um, started it. It's going to be in haven't finished, and I don't think I put in D to F to be honest. B to C.
Okay.
It's for me. I don't know what it is. I put about an hour and a half into it, and I don't know, the setting isn't as gripping and compelling. It's not as interesting to me, and the hooks that they've started with are also not really compelling. I'm sure, it'll expand out and stuff like that over time, because I think you prefer this in the second game, right?
Yeah, I just like the mechanics much more. It feels just, but that's the thing. You're playing the HD collection. I don't know if they maybe cleaned up some of the mechanics from three and implemented those into two. I really don't know. But three for original two versus original three mechanically, three is just way stronger.
Um, it definitely has its own differences. They haven't like ported the inventory system from three into two and vice versa. So I think a lot of it was visual changes that they made. But yeah, I don't know. It just feels for me as well, it felt harder to pretend that that's believable, if that makes sense. It feels a lot more believable to experience Silent Hill 2 than Silent Hill 3. I think
Why
it's
so?
because you're putting it in like a shopping mall and nobody's there.
Oh yeah.
So putting it in such a humane place from the very, very get-go, where you think of like bustling, you know, busyness. Whereas inside that's the thing, like intros and stuff, why it's so important. You need to get that hook. And the hook of Silent Hill 2 is you're on the outskirts of the town, it's foggy as hell. You're left with a cryptic message from your wife, and then you slowly make your way to civilization. And then when you reach it, it is abandoned stuff. And that makes it a little bit more foreboding than just being picked up and placed straight away for me.
Yeah, yeah, I see what you're saying, but also then you would have to go to the hospital thing and be like, well, how the hell is this hospital abandoned? Yeah, I feel like a abandoned mall is more believable than an abandoned hospital in some sense, because like we see abandoned malls nonstop nowadays. But I don't know. I see what you're saying. I think that for me, it really purely comes down to mechanics. I think Silent Hill 2 has a way better story. I think Silent Hill 2 has way better lore think Silent Hill 2 has better atmosphere, but I just think mechanically Silent Hill 3 is fucking strong, man. Really, really strong.
Yeah, it'll be definitely one that I go back and finish. Because I didn't heavily dislike what I had of it. It's just that thing of it didn't put the hook in my mouth and drag me in like Silent Hill 2 did. It was that thing of it was a make or break it, like I said. Like I don't enjoy tank based. And this was my being like, okay, let's go. Let's make an impression on me, game. And Silent Hill 2 really knocked that out of the park. Whereas when I booted up Silent Hill 3 straight after, which is maybe that's the thing, isn't it?
Yep.
Is when you resonate with a entry in a series so heavily, I think it's kind of like the Mass effect, if it were, where people went from two to three and being felt let down. Like three isn't a bad game. Like when you seriously like look at it on its own thing, it's not a bad game. But coming from two, that's heavy things to be following up off of.
It's funny you bring that up. I literally went straight from Mass Effect 2 to Mass Effect 3. I literally went straight from Silent Hill 1 to Silent Hill 2. So it's like Mass Effect 3, I don't have a lot of appreciation for. Silent Hill 2, I don't really, I appreciate Silent Hill 2 a lot more than Mass Effect 3, but I'm not like this mega Silent Hill 2 stan.
Mm. That's the thing, isn't it? It's what you usually experience first. Because people look at me weird when I say that Persona 3 is my favorite.
Yep.
And it's just like, man, it's my first. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I appreciate that you guys love Persona 5, but I will take 3 over it any day.
Yeah. And I think that makes total sense. What you experience first is going to hold a lot of weight, just in that, not even just nostalgia, but just in that it's fresher,
Hmm.
So we'll stay right there talking in the tank based, or not really tank based, but old school horror games. And I'll talk about Fear the Spotlight. I played through and finished this last night. It is an old school survival horror title. It's not tank based though. It is full, full 3D. You have control of the camera, full 3D control of the character. Um, and it is really, really good. It's really good. It's only about 3 hours long or so, 3.5 hours maybe. I played it in one sitting, and usually I play the game for 2 to 4 hours every night. And I was able to get through it in one sitting, and I don't remember exactly the amount of time I spent with it, but I remember finishing it and being like, oh, it's still somewhat early, so it might have even been closer to 3 hours than 3.5, or maybe even probably about 3 hours, I would suspect. But it is a story about these two girls who they are breaking into the school late at night. There's a Ouija board. Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's this Ouija board, and they want to do a ceremony or a what's the word I'm looking for? A say something with an S.
Seance?
Seance, yes. And they want to do this seance, and so they get the candles lit, and they got the Ouija board, and the character you're playing as, she is a like honor roll student. She gets access to the library, and she can go into the student faculty fucking, the storage rooms, and she's got like key cards and shit that grants her access to places that most students don't have. So
Mm.
she goes in and she's able to get the Ouija board. She unlocks the cabinet, brings it out, and there's a fire that took place in this school, and it killed a bunch of the kids in the school in like 1991, if I'm not mistaken. So they do their seance. Of course, shit goes wrong, and you, from that point on, are going along and trying to find your friend who went missing while you were doing this seance ritual thing with the Ouija board. And there's some good moments here, man. It's got a good front-facing story early on, which I appreciate. That's something that's very, very rare in survival horror in general. There's good dialogue. There's good, it's old school PS1 looking, but there are still strong cutscenes. There's a great fire escape moment. You're escaping this fire that's I won't, well, fuck it. The fire takes place pretty early in the game, and it's a good moment where you're escaping from the fire, and that kind of reoccurs throughout the game, as you're avoiding this character who, fear the spotlight. There's this character who has a spotlight on their head essentially, and that's like the main stalker enemy that you encounter throughout the game. And it's all stealth based. It's a hide and seek horror game. You're just avoiding interaction. There's no way to really fight back until later in the game, and you only get one encounter where you're actually able to fight back. But yeah, it's satisfying. It's got that old school Resident Evil loop. Okay, I'm gonna go find this key. I'm gonna unlock this door. Now that I unlocked this door, I found a quarter. Now I'm gonna go take that quarter. I'm gonna put it in the machine. I'm gonna get the WD-40. I'm gonna use this WD-40 for this. I'm gonna loosen that. I'm gonna grab the plug. Like it's that loop. And there is that mild bit of backtracking, but I think it's paced so well where the environments are limited, that everything is so fresh in your memory that you never even need a map. You don't get a map, and you don't really, well, you get a map later in the game, but it's not one that you can like take with you. It's just a stationary map that you can go back to and look at. It's just paced really well. It never overstays its welcome at all. And the moment that you start thinking it's going on a little bit long, it ends.
Mm.
And it's great, man. It's got like little figures, like shadows, that you'll see in the dark, and you're like, what the fuck was that? Out the corner of your eye, something pops up, and that becomes more and more intrusive throughout the game. The story, when you actually uncover what's going on, it's uncomfortably fucking dark, like really, really dark. And yeah, really, really dark. There's some, some of the dialogue and shit's a little bit cheesy, a little bit corny, but you kind of like that cozy, cheesy horror vibe. And yeah, I like the characters, Amy, and I believe the character you play as, Vivian, if I'm not mistaken. And you can actually play as Amy after you finish the campaign. After you finish playing as Vivian, you get to play as Amy as well, and you can see the story through her lens. I don't know if there's any drastic changes. I'll
Mm.
look on YouTube to see if there is, and if there is, I'll play through her campaign as well. Only 3 hours or whatever, and probably less than that once you finish the first time. So I'll go. I'm gonna go.
I was gonna give it a bit of praise as well because I hadn't heard of it. Um, One of my big frustrations with Silent Hill when I was playing through it, I don't know if they addressed this in the remake, is there's no indication what is where, if that makes sense. Looking at the screenshots on this, it shows like a little glimmer as to what you can interact with.
Yeah.
That's really appreciated for me because the biggest problem I had with the HD collection, I got stuck at a part, and it's because you have to be in a specific like that's the window. You have a desk, but you need to be there in the desk to pick up something,
Yeah.
a key item, and that drove me insane because I think it was like 12 hours for me to finish it. And I shit you not, 2 hours of that was me running up and down corridors being like, what am I doing wrong? Like, I've gone everywhere. What do you want from me? And then I finally looked it up and it's just like, I interact with that desk. I picked up bullets. What are you talking about? And it's
Yeah.
because it put bullets on one side and then ever so slightly to the right was the key information piece. So, like, gotta give that because I hadn't heard of the tile at all. It looks really cool, the design and stuff, and that was something that screamed out at me immediately was the glimmer to show what's interactive.
Yeah, dude, and they got a lot of cool shit like that. Just casual interaction in this game somehow they make casual interaction kind of fun. Where like you're moving this cursor to unzip a bag or something, or you're turning a knob and you actually have to turn it. Like things that I hate in supermassive games, somehow they make fun in Fear the Spotlight. It's really good. It's really, really good actually. I'm gonna go B tier for this. I enjoyed my
Mm,
time a lot. I think if like I was grading it, 8-2, something like that. Like that's a fun video game. And it's cozy. It's not there's nothing the themes are dark. The actual story when you get to the big reveal, it's very fucking dark, but it's a fun game to play and it kind of reminds me a little bit of Resident Evil, the originals in
mm.
that capacity where it's not brutal. It's you're not going to die or anything. I died one time throughout the entire game. And it's like a asthma, you got an inhaler, and like she kind of freaks out, and when her anxiety ramps up she has to hit her inhaler to calm herself down, and if you let that go too long or whatever, I guess your
That's
lungs
really
fucking
cool. Cool design.
yeah. So yeah, man, I'll go B tier for that. What you want to jump to next?
I'll pull off 13, the remake. Um, did you play the original?
Yep.
By curiosity. Oh, how they've butchered my boy.
Yeah, well, I played the OG.
Yeah, that's what I mean. On
Yeah.
like the PS2, right?
Yep.
So brimming with style and stuff, and they've ruined it. Like they've changed the art style and stuff like that, and it just doesn't hit the same.
So isn't there a remake of the remake, or is that like on the way or something? I don't know.
I think that because that's the reason I went back and played it, is that they said they cleaned up a bunch of stuff. I think all they
Ah.
cleaned up was performance issues.
Mm.
Like the shit that I had problems with is still there. They've not fixed that. Like they changed character designs so they look bizarre compared to the original. You have the thing that the original got right so well was the comic book thing that it would pan to when you get a boom headshot, and then it would have a really, really good cutout of like that's still there. But what they do is they've mixed it so that it appears in real time, if that makes sense. So if you headshot somebody, it's of the model of the person you've headshot, and because they all look goofy as hell, it doesn't look right. Whereas before they were like still images. It was like you headshot him, here's like a really cool comic thing, and it was really strong and artsy, and that's they've half-assed it. And yeah, it's really unfortunate because it's something that could have been really cool. We don't really get like spy games anymore.
Yeah.
It would have been nice if I guess it's a mild spot. It ends on a cliffhanger. So it's the same cliffhanger. They don't address it. So like this was your moment to address that, but you still don't.
Right.
And worst of all, they cleared up bugs early in the game. There's game breaking bugs from halfway on. I had to uninstall the game, to finish the game because the final mission it would not trigger the interact button that I needed to. Didn't matter what I did, restarted the mission, restarted the mission, restarted the mission. And it's just like Jesus Christ, guys. So it's going straight into D, I'm afraid. It's it's a miserable experience. And it's really unfortunate because it's from, I believe, Microids. They either published it or they did the development themselves. And they always go above and beyond for like the physical side of their games. Like
Yeah.
they give you so much. So it's really unfortunate that they dropped the ball this hard on this.
They recently put out something physically that I just picked up. I forget what it might have been Squirrel with a Gun. Not I'm actually I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that. But yeah, they put out something recently. I remember seeing that logo on a game I just
Yeah.
bought. Um, all right. So I'll go Life is Strange. I played Life is Strange 2. Was trying to play through all of them before Double Exposure comes out. I don't think I'm going to be able to do that. That's coming out in a few days, but I think you only got to play through one before playing Double Exposure, if I'm not mistaken. I was looking that up, but
Um, yeah, because one and Before the Storm are connected, but every other one after that is their own like separate stuff, I
right.
believe.
But yeah, I played through it, finished Life is Strange 2. I like it more than one. I like the characters more than the characters in one. I like the survival aspect. I thought that was really fucking cool in Life is Strange 2. Just it to me, the idea of like going out and kind of having to beg for money and being able to keep track of your money and shit, that was really unique in this game for an adventure game. Like that's a really cool concept to to use where like you're having to track, okay, I just bought this sleeping bag and now I went from $45 to $27 and not wanting to run out of money. I wish they would have leaned into a little bit more to those mechanics. Um, but yeah, man, there's some really unnerving shit towards the back end of the game. It's not as like heavy-handed as Life is Strange 1, but they got some pretty unnerving moments with a big like crescendo payoff with this one specific sort of religious section in general that I'm thinking of. Um and there's just like cool little shit where early on in the game there's a moment where your character's cleaning his room and like going around and he turns on the music player and the actual character, the voice actor, starts singing along to the music in game. It's like that's super sick. I you don't see stuff like that often. And
Yeah, it's so human when you have that.
yeah, absolutely. And it's a brother, it's an older brother taking care of his younger brother. I won't go into anything of how it happens or whatnot, but the over the course of the game, your little brother Daniel, he's gonna need your help with a lot of things, like getting down from ledges and a lot of stuff. He looks up to you and he needs your help. And then as the game goes on, he becomes much more self-reliant. And even though it's not like this decade-long journey or anything, he's gone through so much shit in this short time that he's aging quicker than time will allow. He's
Mm,
actually getting older in like he's aging years and months essentially. And
mm.
yeah, man, it's a pretty good game. I don't have a ton to add to it. It's more Life is Strange dialogue based decisions. Uh, you know, taking care of you got a little dog that pops up and you take care of the dog and yeah, it's cool. These games are essentially like little superhero origin stories if you really
Yeah,
think about it that way.
yeah. For me, the original game, its writing didn't land with me as much. Um, I've seen parts of the follow-up games and they look a lot better. And that's my only worry is that because the what's the one that's releasing? What's that called? Coming
Double
up?
exposure.
That's going back to was it Chloe or Max, whatever
Yeah,
her name
Mac,
was.
yeah.
That's my only. I hope that it's not more teenage drama stuff. I want to see like her be an adult now
Yeah.
and written like an adult because there's a big difference between like Mean Girls drama, which was what a lot of that a big portion of that first game took up before finally beginning to like unravel an intrigue and get a bit darker and stuff.
Yeah, I
So,
see. I disagree, man. I feel like the first game really went pretty fucking heavy pretty quickly. Like
mm,
it. How much of it did you finish it?
I think I did the first two episodes,
First
bounced off.
two.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess yeah, it does start off with the high school shit, and the power is pretty much used in a. I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. It's but man, it gets fucking really
I know.
dark.
I've seen. That's the thing. I've seen the thing, and it was just like, that's why I'm saying I need to go back to it because I've seen what happens,
Yeah,
and it's like, okay, that is powerful and stuff. It's just that thing of like, you intros, like I've said, is really important. People can bounce off them, and that's really damaging.
totally agreed. So I'm gonna go. So I did finish it. I'll go B tier as well. I know a lot of B tier games, but hey, what the fuck can you do? This would be a pretty high, somewhere pretty high up on that B tier though. If I had to rank it individually, which I'm not gonna do that, but yeah, it would be pretty
All
high
this
up there.
4 hours.
Right. Actually, I think it might be the top of my B tier over everything on there. I don't know. Squirrel with a gun. I fucking love that shit. Yeah, go ahead, man. Hit me with the next one.
Go with Diablo 4. I was just rattling off all of the big IPs that Microsoft apparently scooped up. Apparently,
Right.
um, really, really split on it as well, and it's really unfortunate because I love Diablo 3. Like that's a game that not only did 100%, like you're talking probably like 500, 600 hours in Diablo 3 over all the years that I played it. Like it was very addicting, and it just doesn't hit the same. And the big thing is that you have like Blizzard, I don't know if you know when you're playing like a Diablo game, you get these huge cutscenes every now and then in these story beats, like ridiculous quality. It's why people have been screaming at them for Christ's sake, make an animated series. Like you guys are like wasting. Like in Diablo 3 when Diablo just busts into heaven and just starts bopping angels. Like it's amazing. It's really, really cool. And a lot of the cutscenes that you get in this are just like, okay, you could have just like that probably didn't even need to be given budget. Like that was very wasted. And the payoff is is really anticlimactic because they've chosen to go the live service route.
Stretching it out.
You catch up with the big baddie and you deal with it, but you haven't dealt with it because it's continuing season two. And the even funnier thing is now that the Vessel of Hatred has dropped, all the people that were like, "Oh, it's okay, guys," they've continue in season three. It's
Oh
just like
man.
you guys aren't even wrapping anything. This is a joke at this point. Like, what are you expecting? Is this going to be like a story that you're going to drag out over like
10
15
years.
years? 10, 15 years? Like that's absurd.
That is
That's actually
crazy.
absurd. So I can't in good faith put it in D because it is an incredible ARPG.
Right.
That would be way, way, way too rough. But it would be something like a C plus. It would be it's so close to being a B if it got other things right. But you spend like half the game beating up a bald guy, and that's just ain't it. Like I'm sorry, like it's just yeah.
All right. I'll move on to the only other game on here that I've finished. Everything else I just dabbled with.
Hmm.
Deep Beyond. I played this because I like Firewatch, and it kind of looked like Firewatch, but it's not a whole lot like Firewatch, and I was disappointed. Um,
Oh, womp
not
womp.
not really disappointed. It's you play as a deep sea diver. You're this lady, and some mysterious fellas pop up on your boat, and yeah, I won't go too much into the story, but because it's only an hour long, literally there's only so
Hmm.
much I can tell about the story without almost immediately diving into spoilers. But these mysterious fellas pop up on your boat, and you're trying to track them down, figure out what the fuck's really going on. Some decent voice acting, some pretty good writing. There's a lot of orange on the screen at all times. Okay,
I
fire.
can see that in the picture. It's
Yeah,
very bright.
Yeah, if you thought Firewatch had a lot of emphasis on orange, this is like tripling down on that. Um, and yeah, it's just a walking sim in the truest sense of the word because you literally cannot run, and that is unbelievably annoying. There was a moment where I
Oh, do you
lost
think?
what
Because I don't think you could run Firewatch either, right? That was a true walking sim.
I feel like I ran in Firewatch. I don't know. I might not have actually. I can't remember now. I played it this year and I already forgot, but I think I was able to run. You can jump and shit, can't you?
Don't believe there's aspects where you like climb over logs. I don't think you can manually jump.
Hmm. Oh, I might be
But when
thinking
it's
of.
why I'm like saying that is because you said it's like an hour long. That wouldn't bother me not being able to run personally. Because you think if that's an hour long and you're sprinting through it, you're going to be done with it in like 20 minutes,
Yeah, but
30 minutes.
that was the thing for me. I was like, what? There's nothing here really. You
Oh
know,
damn.
it was
Mm.
like it's not. It wasn't really an hour of. I would have rather been done with it in 20 minutes. Because there was just not a lot there to take in. Like I don't think the story really hit on any. There's a moment towards the back end that's like a stealth section that was really fucking cool. There's some light puzzle solving in there. So yeah, you know, maybe, but I would rather it be 2 hours and give me the option to run. You know what I mean? And then make me cut the 2 hours down to an hour. Like I don't know. It just not being able to run at all just kind of takes you out of it because there are scenarios where you would think that the character would run in that situation. But
Is she
regardless,
wearing that? Is she wearing that diving suit the whole time? Because they're heavy as shit.
nah, she's not wearing it the whole time.
Giving you an out game. Come on. I'm trying. I'm really trying.
Yeah, it's and it has like a cool cinematic ending to pay off everything. It's not awful. I shouldn't even. It's
Much.
oh like super fucking cheap. I think like $9 if I'm not mistaken. Um, I actually don't remember, but yeah, I think it was like I think it was around the $10 range for an hour. Sure, you know, same thing with what was it? Fear the Spotlight, 3 hours, $20. I'm not going to complain about $10 an hour or whatever. I will throw deep. Mm, yeah, I'm going to throw it in the D tier, but it's not like a negative D. It's not super super negative for me. It's like a 66, so 65, 67, somewhere in that range, close to a
Missed
C.
potential is what it sounds like. A lot of it is. It's not an inherently negative experience. It could have been something better.
Yeah, it just doesn't have a lot going on with it, man. It just really doesn't have a lot going on with it. I'll quickly run through Beyond Galaxyland real
Hmm.
quick. This is like a 2D text-based sci-fi role-playing game where you have turn-based battles and yeah, dude. So the story is pretty fucking cool. It's like an abduction storyline that you have going on, and a bunch of these corpos got together and created a new world called Galaxyland, and it's run by the richest people in the world. And they started this planet to escape Earth before it implodes, and they're only allowing a limited number of people to, you know, from Earth to occupy the planet, and they kind of just leave it up to chance. Whoever finds these portals is granted life on Galaxyland. And
Okay.
yeah, and it's actually really fucking interesting. It's super super interesting, and you get a ship and you can fly around and go to different planets, and it's way more involved than you would ever expect. And there's like interesting mechanics in terms of you have kind of stealthy mechanics where you can try not to get detected by an enemy, go up and slash them real quick in real time, and then that'll engage in turn-based battle where you have an upper hand, kind of like Metaphor.
Mm.
Um, yeah, so. And they have like collectibles and there's some light platforming. You have a double jump and uh, there's a good variety just in terms of what you're doing from moment to moment while playing this game. And yeah, that I don't really have many complaints with it whatsoever. It just came out in an awful time, and anything turn-based, I'm typically going to, if there's other action-oriented games on the horizon, I'm going to prioritize those over turn-based. But
Foreshadowing.
right. Right, right. But I haven't finished that. I'd definitely put it in the B or C tier though. Maybe even S and A in terms of like I probably won't go back to it. Um, just because once again, it's so packed. The rest of the year's so fucking packed. But that's a
I need to
really,
see if
really good
that's
game.
I need to see if that's dropped on Xbox.
Yeah, man. If it
'Cause
has,
it sounds great.
if it would be so up your alley. Turn-based Mass Effect, pretty much. Like it's literally what the game is turn-based Mass Effect. And yeah, it's just it's a real treat. One of the most underrated games of the year for sure.
Galaxyland.
Yeah, beyond I think beyond Galaxyland, right?
Yeah, we got it.
Nice. Whoops. Yeah,
Oh,
man.
that looks incredible. I like that art style a lot.
It's really good. The story is like
Oh, my wallet this month.
I'm telling you, dude. If I could like speed up the combat, dude, I would have kept playing that for sure. It's a really compelling story. Speaking of that, you want to go ahead and hop into Metaphor?
Yeah, because it will take me a long time to natter on about that. Did you want to kick it off?
Go ahead, man.
Or so this is your first experience with an Atlas RPG, right?
I played a little bit of Persona 5, but I was like, I hate these fucking characters and jumped out of it.
Oh, same here, brother. Same here. Um, Thankfully, that isn't the case this time.
At all.
I've not met a single character. Um, I am in the third city, is what I'll say, because I don't want to. The character that get added to you would be a big spoiler. People playing for it. So third city,
I think
and
that's
not
where
a
I'm at as well.
yeah. There's not a single character that has been added to my crew where I'm like, ugh, every time they talk, ugh. It's beautiful. All of their origin stories are really nice, and well crafted. Uh, it is very similar to Persona in many of its aspects. And because the thing I was going to ask you is, how did you feel about the timelines of everything? Everything having a deadline.
I hate that shit, man.
I thought you
That
would.
that is the one thing. Like if I could point to one thing that's probably going to prevent me from going back to it, that is the one thing. I love the story. I love the characters. I This is probably my favorite turn-based combat I've ever played in my life. I think it's really good. I love the archetype systems, all that shit. But having the setup of like going and doing a bunch of shit I don't want to do just to wait for to do the shit I actually do want to do. Because that story is fucking interesting, dude. The idea of going out and trying to like level up to become the king or whatever in this try to win your way to the top of the throne. Like that's such a cool idea. And I understand the going out and mingling with the townspeople, you're leveling up that way as well. But like, man, it just the core story is so engaging. I don't want to veer off from that too much.
Mm. See, that's what I thought would like divide you big time, along with the long-winded animations of the turn-based combat. Because even for me, it was I love it, but like just give me the ability to press A to skip the animation. Like I get it, you're really proud of it, but I'm clearing these dungeons constantly, and I'm doing this like 40 times in each dungeon, and like yeah, it's impressive to look at, but it really begins to drag on. I think that's the big thing that they struggle with is they're so proud of their style that it becomes a bit, obtrusive at times. So,
Totally. And also the no not having the VO for a lot of those social moments, like when you're trying to develop the follower bonds and shit. It's like, fuck, man. I got the downtime and I'm using it to do this and I want to get to know these people better. And then not having the voice acting, it's like the story is presented so well, the main story. The cutscenes are incredible. It's like an anime movie in that bitch. Like it's so amazing on a visual level and a performance level, a voice acting, writing. I mean, the themes that they're hitting on, they're just knocking this shit out of the park constantly. And then you get to the side shit and it's like it feels underpresented in comparison to the main shit, which is understandable. But it's like, okay, well, I'm being forced to do this, and the other stuff is so good. I just want to do more of that.
Yeah, I think that's a big like gatekeeping. So when people like, because that's when I saw people dropping reviews and stuff before my copy arrived, is people who were dipping in for the first time was like, this is just Persona again. And for the people that love that, it is. It's going to be like, yum yum more. But for the people that bounced off of it for them, criticisms of some people don't want to be doing the social links and stuff, but that is the core bread and butter of Atlas. That's what they've ever since Persona 3 has shown like the strength of that. They've just gone that's the pillars of foundation of every game that they're doing. And I don't think that's ever going to change. And for me, I like it because it does like you get your little things that you're doing for each of the days and stuff. So it gives you something to be working towards. And then they give you a little nugget of reward of, you've leveled it up. Here you go, here's a new archetype and stuff. So it's always expanding. But yeah, because I it's something I don't like about Dead Rising though, is having them deadline time limits. Because I was one of the people that were like hearing that wasn't a thing in Dead Rising 4. That's probably the greatest thing I've ever heard. Whereas a lot of people were angry about it. So yeah, the story, like you said, even just like the king side thing, like put that to this. That's already like A tier. The premise of you reading out of this book, and that's just our world, and they're perceiving that as the fantasy, the metaphor of what they want.
Yeah.
It's so, and I'm hoping it they pull all them threads together and pull it off. It feels like they're doing a good job from what I've seen. But yeah,
Dude, and they're not afraid to kill off important characters. This is
mm,
a ballsy game, and all of its messaging, like it's not beating you over the head with shit, but it has something to say about everything, and it's all fairly fucking nuanced with really good writing. And
that
what a story.
that second city like story arc is gut wrenching for both of them, people that are involved.
Yes.
Because it's two tragedies that are so similar, but they went down two completely different paths. One of isolation and one of barrack like monsterism.
Yeah.
And it's just like
I want to ask what you're. Yeah, I think I know the one you're talking about. I won't spoil it, but you're talking about. Does that have something to do with a child?
yep,
Okay, got it, got it, got it. Yeah,
incredible. And that
incredible,
that the character that joins you tied to that is my favorite character so far. So
interesting.
badass. So
Yeah,
cool. So well
dude.
voice acted as well. Esther. It doesn't probably need to be explained for me.
Oh, you going S tier?
Yeah. And I have to
Yeah,
say, I apologize, Space Marine 2, because like I want to say that I was gonna look at it as my game of the year, and it feels guilty to not because it's everything I basically wanted. But this is so damn.
yeah,
This is and me being on the fence about it because it was a new IP. I feel like was justified because it is so hard to break in with a new IP. Doesn't matter who you are. Even if
totally.
Rockstar went and was like, "Here's a new IP, guys," it doesn't matter. That doesn't mean it's going to sell as many copies as GTA 6.
Yeah, well, they did with Bully, and it didn't sell as well as the Grand Theft Auto games.
Exactly, and that's still a masterpiece in its own right.
Yeah,
So it was that thing of like, I'll see how it goes because the last thing that you took a crack at out of the blue, which was Soul Hackers 2, really didn't land well, guys. But they've put their full team on this. This wasn't like a corner cutting thing. This is
no.
in many ways it's Persona 5 refined. It really
Dude,
is.
I also want to shout out the combat just a little bit more. I love the fact that like you need to avoid enemies and shit at times where okay, my MP's too low or whatever the case, and it kind of creates that survival horror thing where you're picking your battles wisely. And I never really thought about that with RPGs at all, where like usually I just wander into every battle and I'm like, fuck it, I'll get through it. But in this one, I'm actually thinking about who to take on and oh damn, I remember having a fight with that enemy before and they were really fucking tough and my MP is a little bit low and I don't have anything to, boost my MP right now. So I'm going to avoid that enemy and I'm going to try to get to the little what's the point where you can like rest and get your
The
recharge your
magla
yeah.
hole things. Yeah.
Yeah.
See,
So you're
that's interesting because I my little like RPG goblin brain. I don't
battle
let
everything, level
anything.
up.
I gotta, and that's I didn't run out of MP because I'm using that money to buy them MP potions and stuff.
I do, yeah, I do too.
Yeah, it's great. But yeah, you have your little like stealth encounters and stuff because you have to if you face them head on, they get the first turn,
Yep.
and that fucking hurts. So you there were times in the second town where like you had the Minotaur enemies. I can't face them head on. They just bop you on the difficulty that I'm playing at. So I need to make sure that I'm kiting them. If they see me, I need to run the opposite direction and I'll try and like reinitiate that stealth. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a tough thing for me, man. Like it's I want to just jump in. I just want to play through that story so much, just the story. And I really don't want to do any of the day night shit. But I appreciate that that's what they're committed to. I think that this is one of those things where it's like this is the highest quality possible that a video game can offer up, but at the same time, it's just still not for me. I put in a good 20 hours of it. And it's not even that it's not for me. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Let me take that back. I don't like that one thing about the game so much that it's like I to think that I'll be going back to do this for 60 more hours because I put 20 in. They say it's like 80 hours. To do this for 60 more hours, like I can't do that. There's no chance that I'm gonna end up finishing this game, which is a bummer. But I
Out
I
of out of curiosity, then, does this because you really bounced off of Baldur's Gate, even though you loved aspects of it, but the combat was the thing that nailed that in the coffin. So I'm assuming I'll just throw the question out there. If so, the next Atlas title you're probably not going to pick up, and if they were going to take another crack at like the next Divinity game, if it was in the same vein as Baldur's Gate, would that be something that you just put like not going to pick up?
No, I don't think so. I think I'm kind of open to anything. Like I kind of just want to jump into shit, and that's the thing. Like with Metaphor, I knew there was a strong likelihood that this might not end up being for me. I didn't like Persona 5. But I like this so much more than I liked Persona 5, the little bit I played of Persona 5. And I think it's the same thing with Larian, whatever they go on to next, even though I didn't click with Baldur's Gate 3, I think time and place is so important as well. You look at this list. There's
Yeah,
so much shit I'm trying to play. And then I got an 80-hour RPG on top of it. What if this came out 4 months ago when there was nothing to play? Like I probably would have been burning through this and just dealing with the shit I didn't want to do. But now, hey Loon, guess what comes out in a fucking week? 100-hour RPG with Dragon Age that I want to play more than anything. So it's like time and place is so important. So when Persona 6 comes out, I'm just I'll pray that it comes out in a month where nothing else is out. And then maybe it's a totally different scenario.
that's perfect. That's what I was hoping to hear because it is, and you hit the nail so damn good on the head because I put down the Shin Megami Tensei game that came out this year because it was stuffed in between so many other titles. And that's what I mean. Timing is so important and headspace is so important because it's also the reason why I bounced off Silent Hill when I first tried it. Because you're not fully invested. Even though you pick the game up and you put it in, you're like, I'd want to play that. At the back of your mind, you're like, oh, you really don't. Not right now. Like you subconsciously, you don't realize you're thinking that until you're in it. And like you said, you've picked up Metaphor. It's the best experience you've had on a turn-based thing. But at the back of your mind, you know that 80 hours is a long time. Dragon Age is a week away. You don't want to suffer because you're suffering through it. There's good, but there's also bad. You don't want to get to the end of that and then that negatively roll on to Dragon Age.
Exactly. Exactly. And that shit happens, man. That definitely happens where you play a game too much and it ends up impacting the games you're going to play in the future. Like I've had it happen to me plenty of times. And it negatively impacts your opinion of a game that you previously liked, but you powered through it to a point where you didn't end up liking it just to see the end. And
Callisto.
right. That's a great example. So metaphor, like it's a weird thing. I'm gonna put it in the S and A as well. Haven't finished S and A, even though I don't plan on going back to it anytime soon. Um, it's still a game that like I have to acknowledge is the highest possible quality bar that's achievable. Like it genuinely is. And my one complaint about the game also comes down to the fact that there's so much else to play. So
Mm.
does that weigh into me not liking the day night cycle and all of that shit? Because I'm like, damn, I would really like to speed this up so I could play all this other shit. That could very well come into the equation. I didn't even fucking think about that until just now, but that very well could be a
Yeah,
possibility.
if it released in a drought time, like back in the day, usually January's with a drought. If that released in a January where you had like 3 months of basically nothing releasing, it would be perfect.
Exactly. Exactly, dude. Um, all right, I'll hit a couple real quick and then we'll close off with Banishers
Yep,
or,
sounds good.
you know, I'll talk about Parcel Corps real quick. I haven't finished this one yet either. I'll throw that in the B and C tier, somewhere in that range. A little bit janky for sure, rough around the edges with the camera control, no doubt about that. But like I said earlier, I love arcade sports games, and this is in that camp. You're pretty much delivering packages on a bike. You're an Amazon delivery person on a bike. You got your Tony Hawk sort of controls. You're doing your grinding and shit, and I love how mechanically complex this is, though. You have
Mm.
buttons to where you're like sliding under cars, and you kind of need to use gravity to gain momentum. And you press like this R1 button, and your character will he'll like hunker down and leans into the bike as you're riding downhill, so it picks up the speed that much more. And you obviously have your grind and your jumps and your quick turns and your wheelies and your you can do little tricks on the bike. I don't think you can do like backflips and front flips, even no matter how much air you get, which is kind of weird. I could be
Oh,
wrong on
come
that.
on, even Infinite Wealth had that.
That fucking game. Got everything. Um, yeah, it's not like overwhelmingly in depth with the mechanics. You'll understand it within the first couple hours, but it is definitely involved. And I think you could maybe critique that in some sense, where you're like, as much as you appreciate the mechanical variety, you early on it is kind of hard to achieve that flow state with the game where you're just playing it. It's like coming so naturally to you. You really are looking down at the controller a lot, thinking about the inputs, thinking about what you're doing. But at the same time, I think I appreciate that more than just a super simple arcadey BMX experience. And there's some good humor in there. You got like a dude who's impersonating Arnold Schwarzenegger early on in the game, which is funny. A lot of the characters you run into is really funny. And yeah, just kind of crazy taxi meets Paperboy meets Tony Hawk, and some good voice acting. Not a real in-depth story, but some good voice acting. And yeah, I don't have a lot to add to this one. It's just a cool little game. It's you there are some frustrating elements, like there's no waypoint system, so you really don't know where you're going a lot of the time, and there's no way to restart missions. So like you say you got a 3-minute timer on a mission, and
Yeah.
you're gonna end up failing. You can't just restart 2 minutes in. You got to wait for that final minute to roll through, and it restarts for you. So yeah, we'll go C tier for Parcel Corps. Um, anything you wanted to add in there real quick, Loon, or you want me to just rapid fire run through these?
No, I think we just need more of these types of games, is all I'd say. Just them little kind of arcadey stuff, like Jet Set Radio.
Yep.
Miss them times, man.
Totally. And this invokes a lot of that as well. You'll see a lot of that inspiration in Parcel Corps, Tony Hawk, Crazy Taxi, Paperboy, Jet Set Radio. Like
Yeah.
it's got all of those vibes and spades. Dragon Ball Z Sparking Zero. So I played through the Goku story mode on this, which is maybe 2 hours, something like that. And they got like 10 different story modes. So it's talking probably 20, 30 hours of story content. And then you can go in and create your own scenes where you set shit up and you create the dialogue options. And I went and dabbled. I downloaded a couple people's created stories, played through some of that shit. Not the best, but it was early on, so I guess the real creative geniuses haven't came in there and laid out these immaculate storylines. But I remember back in the day, like the wrestling games, they had crazy good stories that you could go in and download that the community had created. So I'm sure eventually that'll be available for Dragon Ball Z as well.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's so I'm not a fighting game guy. I've I feel like at some point I'm gonna have to quit saying that as I continue to play every fucking fighting game that releases. At some point, I'm just gonna have to acknowledge the fact that I really do like this genre a lot more than I thought I did. But yeah, I don't put in the time to like really learn and get good enough to play on a competitive scene or anything like that. But I do think the game is fun and it's much more complex than just button mashing. There's a lot of time where you're gonna have to buy yourself distance and you're gonna charge up your what is it, your key attack, the uh yeah, well you're charging up your like the shit to get you to where you're going Super Saiyan. I don't know all the fucking terms for
I've
Dragon Ball Z.
never interacted with Dragon Ball, unfortunately.
Oh, okay, interesting. So I haven't watched it since I was a kid. But I got
I'll
I
even,
got some
I'll
nostalgia to it.
I'll blow your mind even more.
All
It's
right.
only since Persona 3 launched on Xbox that I interacted really with anything anime.
Interesting.
Never touched anything prior to that. It was a complete foreign concept to me. Something that, like, to even the point where I felt uncomfortable because I just
Yeah.
had no knowledge of it. It's just like, man, this is like, you guys have like ridiculous, like, cult fandoms and stuff like that. Now I'm one of them with my Persona Shrine.
Yeah. I'm kind of in a similar camp. I don't really engage with much anime whatsoever either. Nothing against it at all, really. I loved Dragon Ball Z when I was a kid, but yeah, it's just I haven't really fell down that rabbit hole. But I do have some real nostalgia for Dragon Ball Z, so it's going to be one of those things. Really, what Sparking Zero made me want to do because it was retelling the story that I already knew from Dragon Ball Z, and it also included some super stuff in there that I wasn't familiar with as familiar with. But what it really made me want to do was go play the what is it, the Xenoverse, the Dragon Ball Xenoverse games
Mm.
because those are all like brand new original stories. And I did not know that until playing this game because I looked up online. I was like, Dragon Ball Z Sparking Zero, best stories or original stories or whatever. And it was like, he's pretty much telling you, yeah, it goes through all of the stuff that you know from Dragon Ball Z. It's not, you're not getting, you do have branching paths though that are cool where you can play through the story and you can make decisions that were never made in the show and that'll take you
Mm.
down different routes that you obviously have never seen before because they never occurred in the show. So those are brand new cutscenes, brand new story beats that play out. I do think that shit's really fucking cool. Tons of destructible environments in this game. Loads of destructible environments. And I thought it was very limited at first. I was like, okay, cool. They got a couple set pieces to where you can throw Vegeta through it and it'll explode and cool. It's everything. The entire world is destructible, at least to my knowledge. Like you can fuck up everything. If it's on the screen, you can fucking Kamehameha a motherfucker through it. Like you can, it's really, really cool. And I love the little teleport attacks where you can dodge out of the way perfectly, but it appears like it's just a teleport. You'll end up behind them and then you got a clear advantage. It's a game that you can definitely get cheesy with for sure. But it's just fun to play. It's really, really fucking fun to play. And yeah, I what what I really think the coolest thing about this game could end up being is that creation shit. I think if
Yeah.
people get in there and really, really put some time and effort into it, I think they can come up with something really fucking cool for those created stories. But yeah, it was tough for me as well. I started off playing on easy and then leveled up like I do with all the fighting games to normal. It took me a while to really understand the mechanics with this thing. It's got a lot going on with it. So yeah, I'll go. I obviously haven't finished, but I'll definitely say B through C, somewhere in that range, close way closer up to the B tier. Um, yeah. How about you? You want to rattle off Banishers and I'll close off with Sky Oceans and Unknown Nine Awakening?
Yeah, this was the time I haven't finished this one either. One of the three that I had that I didn't finish. Still playing through it, enjoying it. I'm in. I've met the Hunter woman, if you remember her.
Yeah, you're talking about she's like the leader of her little faction.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I'm working through like all of them little side things, and just like I loved Vampire for what it was, but some of its story, uh, when you would go through the side stuff. it wasn't as rewarding as other stuff. Right now, every single, you're a banisher, so you're banishing, everything has to do with ghosts and stuff. Every single one of them encounters has felt satisfying, finding out, the conclusion to it. And it's always some like heinous crap as well. And the beauty of it is, even though it's heinous, some of the stuff that these people have done, it's been written in a way where you could be like, from a perspective, I don't, it's not like that's not chaotic evil that you've chosen to do. It's just you were placed in a situation, and this is really crappy, like the husband and wife blacksmith thing. That resolution, I don't know if you did that.
Yeah, I know what you're talking
And it's
about.
just like, all right, he's a scumbag, but like, you know, there's you yourself haven't really, you've identity theft, man. What's wrong with you?
Right.
Um, and then you have like cannibalism happening and stuff like this on other ones, and it's just like I've not concluded a quest where I've been like, oh, thank God that's over. It's been really compelling, and the voice acting has been really good. Again, like I said, I voted for McRae to be my voice actor as one of them for the final five or six, whatever it was that we did our predictions for. Just incredible voice acting. And I think I'm going the complete opposite path as to what you did, because I think that you were helping your wife, whereas I'm staying true to, or
Yeah, I
did you
didn't.
use you did you sacrifice people or did you ascend people?
I so I went the route of not trying to bring my wife back.
Oh, okay. I thought you went and tried to bring it. Yeah. To
No.
me, it just, I don't know. It's just like, man, we have a job to do.
Yeah.
I don't see that paying off well as well. If I'm having to kill people to bring you back, that never ends well. So
That was my
I've
thought as
gone,
well. I was like,
hmm,
this seems so immoral. Like our whole job, if we believe in it, is to not allow this shit to happen because we know that it taints the actual reality, the plane that we're trying to exist on by keeping people trapped in this purgatory state. And then
yep.
if we're gonna go the extra step of bringing people out of purgatory into reality, like that's gonna fuck shit up even more. So yeah, I did the same
The
thing.
big, the big red flag for me and what tips me over it is in like that first encounter, and she's like, I have this like insatiable hunger. Like I could taste his spirit, and it's just like, all right, man, I ain't bring you back. Like you ain't coming back. You're gonna move on
Yeah,
because I don't want a wife coming back from the grave and eating dead bodies or some crazy shit.
totally.
But yeah, uh, just a really good double A experience, and it's really unfortunate that it appears to have not done too well. I think
No,
they've cut a lot of stuff from Don't Nod, which is really, really unfortunate because I like this. I don't think these are the same people that are doing other stuff, whatever the other team doing. That's Life is Strange, right?
right. Well, no, their next game's going to be that Lost Records Bloom and Rage, but that same style of game, that Life is Strange style.
Mm. And I've just preferred this RPG side of stuff. What they're doing is just perfect, like 360S, where they're open environments, but they're really tight and they don't take long to explore because I'm going through these things, and that's what's making these missions so I'm doing them all without even second thinking it because it's over like that. You're
Yeah,
doing them in like 30, 40 minutes, and it's beautifully written from start to finish. Yeah, it's just a really, really great game, and it's definitely an A tier for me.
nice, man. You haven't finished it yet?
I'm still in that village.
Okay.
I think I finished. I just need to talk to her because I did the blacksmith and then I did the woman that was crazy with the cipher. That was a really cool
Yeah.
um side thing where she can like you're looking at it and there's like a hidden message thing and then you find out the meaning behind it and it's just like pretty cool.
I don't think I did that actually.
So it's a spy that has a cipher.
Wait, actually, I
Um,
am kind of remembering that now.
yeah, she's a French. She's in like infiltrating into like the English colonies as like a French spy.
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. And you got to return something to her?
and it's a husband that finds out, I believe, that comes back, and that's who you need to like push on because it's
Okay.
like he's trying to protect her and stuff like that, and it's just
I
like, look, man, she don't need protecting.
yeah, I might not have done that. That sounds interesting as shit.
Yeah, it was a really good so and that's what I mean, like none of them have been disappointing so far.
Yeah,
So
just
like
as,
bring them all on. They're all like minimum 7 out of 10 like stories. Like they're really good.
that's fucking awesome. All right, I will do Sky Ocean's Wings for Hire. I'll throw this in the B and C category. I
Oh,
almost
thank God.
what?
It looked really interesting to me, and I've seen like it been reviewed really bad. I was hoping it wouldn't make that bottom category.
Well, I was actually just about to say I could see myself putting it in D through F if I wanted to be really harsh because the game is fucking busted.
Ah,
Autosave is horrible. I glitched through the world and it killed my character for some reason. I glitched through the world and it set me back like 30 minutes. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm not playing 30 minutes to catch back up to this shit just for it to possibly happen again and set me back another 30 minutes. Like, you can't manually save well, you can, but like you can't do it at any time. And the auto save is just so infrequent that it's like there's just too much to play right now for me to even begin dabbling with this and have that in the back of my head. Just fuck that.
yeah.
Um, Story is really compelling. Like some family drama going on, um, some real heavy shit takes place early in the game, and like I wanted to see that shit through. And I also thought the main villain was incredibly compelling as well. Not like this super malevolent, like it wasn't this super they they were obviously evil,
Mm,
but they had some sort of moral compass and they wouldn't allow their people to do shit that was like ultra heinous. They just had a goal they wanted to achieve and they wanted to do it as reasonably as possible. And I was like, okay, that's actually a great villain arc where you obviously you don't want to see them succeed because that would be at the detriment of you, the main character, because they're coming after you, but like you don't have this built up hatred for him. And I'm like, I was so compelled to see that through, but I'm not going to deal with a bunch of fucking bugs just to see it through. And the turn-based combat really enjoyed. You get to fly around this plane
mm.
in real time. Like you could just get to go around flying, doing spins and fucking going and collecting shit and shooting at shit and like it plays really well. It's a fun game to play. There's a moment with a character named Blacktooth who's like a pirate and ultra hard hitting moment. Um, each party member has their own different abilities when you engage in the turn based combat. Like it's a really cool game in so many ways, other than the goofy ass fucking dumbass fucking stupid ass fucking
See,
auto
that's
save.
because I was looking at it because I remember seeing it. It released for Switch, I believe, earlier this year.
Oh really?
So it released in January.
Huh.
And you're telling me you've ported this to everywhere else and it's buggy as hell? Like, what on earth are you doing?
So goofy. So goofy.
That's really
Well,
unfortunate because it was definitely on my watch list. I hope it gets patched up and stuff.
and it wouldn't be a hard thing to fix. Just add a manual save option at any time. That way people wouldn't have to worry about your game just totally freaking the fuck out and making the player lose 30 minutes of progress because you hit a
I
wall.
I don't know why they don't do that in JRPGs. It bugs me so much. It's why I bounced off of. I'm gonna get back to it, Lost Odyssey, but I've left with like a sour taste in my mouth after such good stuff because I lost 30, 40 minutes of progress because you tie everything to fucking save points on the ground. Is it just let me save, bro? Why?
It's the same
Why
thing
do you
here.
do this?
Save points on the ground if you didn't save that bitch recently. And even if you
Yep.
did, it don't matter because if you weren't, if you went off and did a random mission that took you 40 minutes, unless it just popped an autosave, which it does not do often at all. Yeah, unfortunate. All right, speaking of unfortunate, Unknown 9 Awakening. Um, I picked this up. I'm not putting it in the D through F. I'll put it in the B through C as well. It's not in fucking Looney Tunes camp, but it's it is a really cool game mechanically. You can possess different people, you can take over their bodies, you can start, you got a sniper who's off in the distance. You can go and possess that character, take over their body, use their sniper rifle to kill their own enemies. The actual combat is not awful at all. It's not great, but it's not horrible. Third person, melee centric combat. I anytime there's a new third person action adventure game that is not in any way, shape, or form taking anything from Souls mechanics, I'm gonna buy it. So that's the reason I bought this thing. And I do think like you can blow shit up telepathically, so you can you can detonate little, canisters and shit, and you can grab an item and like throw it, or I think that's also done telepathically, and you'll lure an enemy towards the canister that's about to blow up, and they'll go exploding, going flying all over the place. You can like force push enemies, so an enemy will be standing near the edge of a building or something. You can force push them off the building, they'll go flying to their death. You can force pull enemies towards you. And yeah, it's also really cool using some of those mechanics in combination with the explosives and shit, where you'll force push an enemy towards a canister and then you'll detonate it. And then, it's just like they got cool shit going on here. Um, I think the stealth is fun. I think the melee is okay. It's not great, doesn't have a ton of weight to it, but it's not bad. Um, Character models are god awful, dude. God awful character models, which is stunning because you have the lady who plays Yennefer
Yeah.
in
It's
in
her
The Witcher.
debut into gaming, which is a really big unfortunate thing.
And she's such a great, she's a beautiful lady. And then they have her character model looking like something from PS2. It's like, what the fuck do y'all got going on? The lock on system is horrible. Locking onto
Mm.
characters, like I just never did that shit. Uh, yeah, I hate that they led with the lore. I could not give a fuck less about the lore of this game whatsoever. I just wanted to possess shit and beat shit up and blow shit up, and I wish it would just let me do that a little bit more, but it really wants you to care about the story, and I just could. I honestly I did kind of start caring about the story at a certain point, but um, it just got to a point where I was like, there's other shit I'd rather play. Not a bad game, but just kind of in that camp of there's other shit I'd rather play.
I think it's an eye opener as well of an experience. Is when what we need to look at moving forward is you could tell something was off. It didn't get any marketing. This is Bandai you're talking about.
You know,
Like they usually go pretty hard with their marketing of stuff. Scarlet Nexus and stuff. You're talking that got like a TV series alongside the games. Like it's crazy. So for this to get nothing, because we didn't we were saying like it's releasing in like tomorrow or whatever it was, and it's like, is it? Oh damn. That's really bad because it looks like it had a decent amount of budget thrown behind it. Whether or not them mechanics were executed like to a high degree, it's definitely got a higher budget than quite a few titles on this list.
oh, it got a higher
And
budget than everything on this list except Dragon Ball Z, Banishers, Metaphor, Diablo. Like it got a higher budget than almost everything on this list, which is crazy.
and then for the to be not marketed at all, I think that's a big wake up call because it's like the very few titles will get hardly any marketing when you've put that much into it and then be a booming success. Most of the time it's like, well, what are you hiding? If you if you have something good, you'd be showing it, right?
You know, yeah. It's unfortunate because there's some cool shit in there. Really cool shit. There's some cool fun mechanics that I think they could have expanded on that a little bit more and cut some of the lore, and which some of the lore maybe would have been cool if, yeah, it just, you don't lead with it. Lead with the gameplay, lead with getting us up to speed with the character, lead with us liking the character, and then let's go into the lore after the fact that we're already invested, you know? So,
Do what Greedfall did. They did an amazing intro where it's
yeah,
very, very quick and into it, you're into the gameplay, and then when you arrive at the new colony, then it's like, here's what's going on, guys. You get like
right.
a very brief cutscene with your mother and stuff. Like that's the perfect for a double A game, the perfect kickoff.
Totally agree, man. Well, my good people, we hope you enjoyed that long ass ranking. Next month probably will not even be half this long because November is really not all that packed. And I think we'll be really just diving into Dragon Age and Alan Wake 2 as like our high priority titles. So stay tuned for next month. Let us know what you've played down in the comments below. And Loon, I appreciate you for joining me for this ranking, man. I apologize for how long this shit took.
It's always a blast.
Shit,
Shooting the
yeah,
shit with
dude.
the video games. So, yeah. Can't wait till next month.
Absolutely.
It's going to be a blast talking about Dragon Age. Getting it after 10 years or whatever it is, 11 years, however long it's been.
So crazy, man. So crazy. 10 years later, and it is, what, a week away at this point?
Yep.
That's
Got
so
my
fucking
pre-order
wild.
locked in.
Absolutely. I do as well. And I'll be picking that up. And I think we'll probably both have that finished or close to finished by the time we come in to talk next month, which is perfect. Where we're not rushing through anything. We'll have full thoughts on it. So
Yep.
we're really just a big Dragon Age review next month. So stay tuned for that, guys. And we shall see you good people very soon. Like, subscribe, comment, all that good shit massively helps out the algorithm to boost it to more eyeballs. Until then, guys, we shall see you soon. Goodbye.
See you later.